Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
And here we go.
Live from the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, welcome to episode 79 of the Confirmed Epic Podcast, the official podcast of the epicreview.com and proudly presented by the Geeks Worldwide Radio Network. I, of course, am one of your hosts, the real Brad Bell, here to promise you that this will not be the last podcast, even though we are reviewing The Last Jedi today.
Are you sure it won't be the last podcast?
There's always that, stark possibility, considering I'm about to have a kid. You're super busy, but
We did. What was the last one? Thor
Justice
Ragnarok?
League. Justice League.
Oh,
So
God,
it's
that
been-
happened this year.
Yeah, end of
That
November.
happened.
Justice League did happen. And, of course,
Wow.
that's the voice of my normal co-host, Andrew Stokes, also known as.
Andrew Stokes.
And we have joining us today, Kate Mcall.
I'm back again.
Yeah, welcome back. She was great on our Thor Ragnarok review, so it's awesome to have her here looking at the biggest movie of the year.
The biggest movie of
The
the year.
biggest.
Bigger than the other movie of the year that was even bigger?
What was that?
I don't remember.
Yeah, this is definitely for geeks and even, reviewers, film critics, this
Yeah.
was definitely the most eagerly anticipated movie of the year and
Probably,
probably
yeah.
the most eagerly anticipated film since The Force Awakens, once we knew Justice League was going to suck, so there wasn't much need to anticipate
Pretty
that.
excited for Spider-Man, I'll admit.
Yeah, I was
That's,
too.
well, Marvel killed it this year, I feel like.
Yeah, Marvel always kills it. I think Marvel's the biggest.
Marvel's always like, to me, their movies are always like good, like some sort of baseline good.
Yeah.
This year, it's like, man, I really liked. Like,
they were
everything
baseline great
Yeah,
this year,
Yeah,
I would say.
I thought so. Even though I think I gave like Spider-Man like a good and a half or something. I don't know.
Usually,
Oh, I did not just hear that.
A good and a half. Or
I
great,
gave it
don't
a
remember.
grade, I think.
Yeah.
What would you give Spider-Man Homecoming while we're talking about it?
Well, I'm a fangirl. I would say it was epic.
Epic,
I loved
okay.
it.
Wow.
I was delighted.
In that case, since I'm a
Wow.
fanboy of Star Wars, there's no need to review this. I'm going to go ahead and give it an epic right away. But yes, of course, we're reviewing Rian Johnson's Star Wars The Last Jedi. And that's all we're doing today since this is going to be such a jam-packed review.
I watched 5 different shows to prepare for checking out.
Yeah, the one time he actually was
Punisher,
prepared for checking
Fuller
out.
House Season 3, The Defenders again. That's it. Okay, I'm just naming Netflix shows.
And we want to
That's
wish
that's
all
I
of
do is
you
watch Netflix.
a very happy holiday season. This is going to post right before Christmas. And, of course, these two are about to host a lovely Christmas party, which, unfortunately, I was not invited to. I'm just kidding. I cannot
That's
attend.
not true at all, yeah.
I couldn't attend. But
You're
I'm
officially
here.
uninvited.
I'm
Yeah.
here for the pregame party.
Give us our cookie back.
Yeah. I'm eating a delicious and lovely gingerbread cookie provided to me for Kate to spice me up and get me ready going for this podcast. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our review of Star Wars The Last Jedi.
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something truly special.
Something inside me has always been there. But now it's awake. And I need help.
I've seen this raw strength only once before. It didn't scare me enough then. It does now. Let the past die. Kill it. If you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be. We are the spark that'll light the fire
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
As always, let's get this started with some stats on The Last Jedi. This film was released December 15, 2017, directed by Rian Johnson, produced by the legendary Kathleen Kennedy and Ron Bergman, of course. It stars a lot of our original favorites, such as Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher, and it brings in Adam Driver, John Boyega, Daisy Ridley, Anthony Daniels. You get the point, a whole bunch of Star Wars people into the fold. A lot of people returning from Force Awakens, Episode 7, and a couple new characters here as well, such as Benicio del Toro being welcomed into this fold, which is kind of big because he's an Oscar-caliber actor. Which, not saying Star Wars actors aren't, but that's generally not the case. Scored by John Williams, another legend. I love this score. More on that later. 152 minutes, which is the longest Star Wars movie by like 15 minutes. Budget of $200 million. It had the second biggest opening weekend ever domestically with $220 million. Only behind The Force Awakens, which is still staggering looking back at this. That movie made $247.9 million opening weekend. As of now, the film has crossed the $500 million mark worldwide. It sits at 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's been bouncing back and forth between 92 and 93 here the past couple days, with a 57% RT from film goers, a score. Usually a score you don't pay attention to on Rotten Tomatoes, but since this film is polarizing to say the least, that's got a lot of news. There's rumors. Rotten Tomatoes hasn't confirmed it, but there's rumors that this alt-right group hacked it because
as far as I know, they say that's not true.
Yeah, they said it's not true.
Right. So,
yeah, so I'm going to take them at their word for that. So let's go ahead and get into this.
Also, with Kelly Tran, too, is Rose. You didn't mention.
Yeah, sorry.
That's fine.
Sorry, yeah, and she was great as Rose.
Her character was just a big character. That's why I mentioned.
Yeah, she's a huge character. Not like Jabba the Hutt, huge as in, big part of the film, figuratively. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, Andrew, too. It's good to see you in the holiday spirit.
Jabba.
You've seen Santa Jabba online, of course. You hadn't?
No.
Well, there's like a video making the rounds at Chewbacca, like 12 Days of Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's all him growling, of course. And then the end is that ho, 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 and it's Jabba in the Santa hat. All right. Let's get to the opening questions of this film. I'm going to start with Kate because I know the least about her.
Just to reiterate, I mean, normally we do this, but just to reiterate that we are spoiler-free right now.
We're spoiler-free. Yeah.
We will do a typical spoiler section. We're spoiler-free right now.
It'll probably be a very short non-spoiler section,
Right.
but we're going to try to give you that nonetheless.
Yeah.
Okay, Kate, what's your Star Wars fandom like?
I would say I'm probably middling, because I have seen all the movies. I've actually seen parts of that awful Christmas special.
Yeah.
I've not read any of the books or any of the comics, but I have played several of the games, including, Knights of the Republic and everything. I don't know. Occasionally I seem to know more than Andrew, but I just enjoy it. I'm not really heavily into it. I'm not offended when people don't like certain things. But, overall, it's a good series.
Well, Kate, it was nice having you on this podcast for the episode and 1/3 you were on. No, I'm just kidding. Andrew, what about you?
Yeah, she probably is a bigger Star Wars fan than me. I think.
Really?
I would say so. I mean, I think most of my friends are bigger Star Wars fans than I am. You and Jerry, especially, I would say. I mean, I didn't even really care for Star Wars growing up. I wasn't a kid that was like into Star Wars.
When did you get into it?
Man, I was trying to figure this out. I knew what Star Wars was in general. I know I've always kind of known, Darth Vader is, Luke's father and that kind of stuff.
Spoiler, man. We're in a non-spoiler section.
And, man, I really don't think I actually sat and really watched the original trilogy till I was probably like in my 20s, early 20s.
Really?
Yeah. Like
wow.
I had seen them.
Wow.
I had seen them like bits and pieces, but I don't think I ever like sat down and watched them. Return of the Jedi was always my favorite of like the original trilogy. because like Ewoks and stuff. You know what I mean? As a kid. And I was
So
like,
did the prequels resonate more with you?
Hey, well, the prequels, yeah, when they came out, I was like, oh man, I was more into the prequels at the
I
time.
knew you were a big fan of the prequels for
Yeah.
a long time, and I really questions Andrew's sanity.
Yeah.
Attack of the Clones was his favorite Star Wars movie.
I say now I probably dislike the sequels more than any of you guys, or the prequels.
Prequels,
I mean.
yeah.
See, and I can interject that with when I was younger, my older brother had a Millennium Falcon, and we used Lego pieces to reenact the movie every once in a while.
Yeah,
like
no.
that
How
was
much
my
older is
stuff.
he than you? I'm just curious.
My brother?
Yeah,
2 years.
2 years. So y'all are relatively close in age. Everybody here is in their back half of their 20s or early 30s here.
Yeah.
So for me, my Star Wars fandom was unique because my first real experience with Star Wars was 1997. I got to go to the theater and see all the special editions. So had I seen the bits and pieces on TV, on TBS, TNT, that I know Vader was Luke's father, sure. But it was an all-new thing to me. So it was like the year before Phantom Menace came out. It was, I think, March, April, May, or January, February, March of 1997. They did one special edition a month. And it was the same time that Kenner was doing the Power of the Force line. I don't know if you remember this, Andrew. It was the green and orange card. The Star Wars figures 3 3/4 looked like they had been injected with steroids or Bane's venom. They were like, Princess Leia looked straight up like a man. It was pretty disgraceful. But I did have a giant Millennium Falcon, which was badass. So I have this weird experience where I saw the movies in theaters, the original trilogy, before I ever saw the prequels. Which is not a weird experience, I guess, for somebody my age it is. Did you see the special editions in theaters too, Kate?
I didn't see them in theaters. We had, box sets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have the Faces box set, the one that had a Stormtrooper on Empire and Vader on New Hope? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went out and got that for like Christmas. I should say my parents went out and got it because I didn't. I was 10 years old, but I got that. And that's like the last release of the unaltered versions of Star Wars. Now you can only, of course, unless you're going to pay a hefty penny or break out the VHS player, that's really all you can get there, which is never bad. Apparently that's coming back, VHS players. Anyway, so original trilogy, obviously prequels, I liked them just fine.
I think I saw them all in
kid.
theaters. I don't think I saw
too.
any of the others. I didn't see special editions or anything in theaters that I recall.
I love Revenge of the Sith out of the prequels that came out the day I got out of high school my senior year, and we went that night to see it. So pretty fond memories of that. I mean, I've collected the toys, not anymore. I've since quit because I have to have a little bit of money in my bank account so my wife wouldn't kill me. I mean, I've read a lot, when I say a lot, not as much as Jerry.
Right.
Okay?
Well, it's hard to get. That's our benchmark as far as Supreme Star Wars fan Jerry. So we definitely, I don't think anybody measures up to him. But
my most expanded universe knowledge is the Sith. I've read a lot of the Darth Plagueis. I've read that book. Did you ever hear the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
My most, I don't know, outside main movies knowledge is probably the Clone Wars TV series, and that's basically it.
Yeah, I never saw that one.
I've watched that.
And Chewie's son used at one point was a Jedi with a yellow lightsaber
in the EU.
Yep.
Yeah. And Chewie got killed by a moon.
In a moon.
And Lando taught
by
Luke
R.A.
how to
Salvatore.
make.
I remember that.
Luke was taught to make hot chocolate by Lando. That's one that Jerry always likes to throw out there as random Star Wars knowledge.
Yeah.
But
Did he use blue milk?
no, he didn't use blue milk. I think that's something introduced by Rian Johnson. But I mean, I love Rebels.
What?
Blue milk was blue milk and
Blue was in New Hope.
Absolutely.
Was
It's a New Hope. Yeah, it's like
Oh,
Is it
man,
in New
it's-
Hope?
when he's there with his aunt and uncle.
when he's eating early on. That's like a classic like Star Wars.
Everybody's
I
like,
didn't
"Ooh,
know
blue
that.
milk.
Blue
Where does
milk,
it come
yeah.
from?"
People got pissed off about blue milk.
Probably because
I
that's
don't-
not where they envisioned it came from.
Yeah.
That's not. I don't
See,
think
I
that's the
don't
blue
rec-
milk though. We're gonna
Plus,
get
it
into that.
I don't
wasn't
recall
blue.
that.
It wasn't blue. It was green.
So you guys see the direction that this is going. But I read the comics, I read a lot of the books, but I didn't know where blue milk come from. So you can question my fandom.
Didn't
if
even
you
know
want
it
to.
existed. Apparently.
So what were your thoughts on The Force Awakens and its new characters, Andrew?
I like The Force Awakens. I was excited. I don't know. I like JJ Abrams films, but I was excited to see that this next one was kind of going with somebody else, just because I feel like Force Awakens was super entertaining. But it was like I was ready. it seemed like a nice introduction, and I was ready to kind of sink my teeth into like these characters and like the new First Order and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I definitely liked The Force Awakens. I liked it more than Rogue One, which I know some people like Rogue One more.
I like Force Awakens more.
Yeah. Oh yeah, me too.
What about you, Kate? Did you enjoy that film?
I did, but I do actually think I'm one of those people that enjoyed Rogue One more.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I guess I liked that it seemed somewhat different. It was a side story. I could kind of place where it was happening, but it wasn't like right there.
It had a
but I like
badass
the
Vader
Force
scene
Awakens
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, my thing with Rogue One, I think it'd be great if it was like a short film. It'd take like the last like 45 minutes roughly, and like introduce the characters real quick, and then throw them on this battle on Scarif or Seraph, whatever that planet's called. And then have the Vader. I think that would have been like cool, like short little film there. I don't know how long a film needs to be considered short, but
I love Force Awakens. I see the nitpicks with that. It's a lot like A New Hope. I mean, it's comfort food's what it is. I love the opening line of Force Awakens when Poe meets with Lord Santek and he gives him the map to Skywalker. He's like, this will begin to make things right. Such a meta moment from JJ. You know, people bitched and complained about the prequels.
Right.
And like this, we're moving in the right direction here.
Yeah.
And I like that kind of meta commentary. But of course, Starkiller Base is the Death Star.
But bigger.
Yeah. But I mean, I love that movie for what it is. I would give it a great and a half. And I still stick by that rating.
Okay.
And I've been pretty consistent with that. Any of you familiar with any of Rian Johnson's films going in, like Looper, Brick, Brothers Bloom? I'd only seen Looper. Have you seen that? It's got Joseph Gordon-Levitt. You've seen
Willis.
that, right?
Yeah, I like Looper. Looper was good.
I love that movie. Which Joseph Gordon-Levitt cameos in this movie. He's the guy on Canto Bight who rats them out for basically parking their ship on the beach. That's Joseph Gordon-Levitt, yeah. So that was pretty cool.
He had something to do with Breaking Bad as well. Did he write or direct or what?
That episode, Ozymandias.
And Fly. He did Fly as well.
He did?
Yeah,
he wrote. Well, I know that I hadn't finished Breaking Bad, so don't spoil it for me. But Ozymandias is supposed to be a great episode.
Yeah,
he
that's
wrote
great.
and directed that. So.
But then Fly, I don't know what he did on Fly. I know he was associated with that, and that's not my favorite episode.
Oh, it's a lot of people's least favorite episode.
But some people love it. Some people love
episode.
it. Some people think it's like the greatest episode. So
going into this film, how excited were you guys, Kate, to Last Jedi?
Not terribly.
Not terribly. You were looking forward to it, but
I mean,
special.
I was looking. It was going to be my Christmas movie. That's what we do for Christmas Day. We go see a movie. So we had planned on seeing this, but
was it Rogue One last year? Mm-hmm. Force Awakens the year before. Mm-hmm. Okay, so
she had a nerdy family apparently.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Family sounds cool. The Force is strong in her family. Andrew, what about you?
I was pretty excited.
Yeah, I was really excited. I mean, it would never approach the level of Force Awakens. Because it's like the first Star Wars movie with the original cast since, and it was just a special feeling going into that theater that night. And I got really sick and couldn't go to the premiere. I paid for the ultimate fan experience. I didn't get my collectible. You got like a collectible 10 popcorn bucket, a pack of trading cards, like a commemorative ticket. And I got that stupid norovirus, and Abby got it as well. So I
paid for the collector's edition, and all you got was the norovirus.
I gave my tickets away, so Abby and I. Now, keep in mind, we still saw it opening weekend.
Sure.
But it killed me.
Yeah.
Those 36 hours killed me. Yeah, Kate.
I mean, you gave your tickets away. Did you not ask them to give you the stuff?
No, I didn't ask them.
Wow, I'm awful, and I would have.
Well, I think what it is, I may still be able to get the ticket from Evan because I was going to go with Evan. But
shout out to T-Love.
Yeah, shout out to T-Love. But anyway, the popcorn bucket, I should say, was normally like $16, but if you purchased the fan experience, it was $3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if I had been there, I'd have spent $3. When we went to Regal, they wanted $26 for this collectible BB-8 cup and a 10 popcorn. I was like, I love Star Wars, but man, you're not gonna green milk me out of that one or blue milk
or both,
or both.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty excited for it. Yeah, I don't think I was excited as Force Awakens either for whatever reason.
Yeah,
I was more excited for The Force Awakens.
Yeah. I think everybody was.
I mean, that probably shows because I know like it didn't do as well opening weekend as Force Awakens, which I was actually surprised about. But
a different excitement going into this one, hoping we're going to get answers about Rey's parents and Snoke, and of course we do. More on that later. Let's go ahead and get into our initial impressions on this film. Kate, what did you think?
I enjoyed it.
You liked it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I, again, have always liked the series. I'm interested in the universe that they've created. And I went and I enjoyed it. It was great.
But you didn't walk out of the theater being like, this is going to be in my top 15 or 10 favorite movies of all time. Nothing to that level, right?
No.
And we should point out we've all seen it 2 times. Kate, 1.5. But we've all seen it 2 times.
Yeah.
And would you guys say that this movie benefits from a second viewing?
You'd catch a lot more.
You really do. This movie really comes at you fast the first time. And she caught some Z's, but,
I don't feel I've heard that from a lot of people, and
Me
maybe
too.
I don't know. I didn't. My second viewing, I didn't really. I don't. There were maybe a couple things I caught, but nothing like.
At the end.
Yeah, then definitely nearer to the end. Nothing groundbreaking. Well, this. I look at this a whole new light, changes everything.
My thing was I have expectations of the movie going in, what I want answered, what I want to see, and this movie subverts a lot of those expectations. So now knowing what I was going to see, I was able to enjoy it better.
I enjoyed it a little bit more the second time. That's true.
I teared up the second time. I didn't the first time I saw it, which is odd.
You teared up.
Yes.
I know exactly what scene too.
There were 2 scenes. Well, there was one scene
didn't tear
I
up, but it
welled
got
up.
me.
There was a second scene I teared
Well, and
up.
spoilers, I definitely need to know what that is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just
Let me.
I will.
Okay.
I will tell you.
Again, I didn't tear up, but there was a scene that got me both times that I watched it. It got me both
Wow,
times.
y'all are much more sensitive than me.
Star Wars. I gotta just. We were talking
It was
about.
just well done. There's a scene in this that I think is well done.
Star Wars is my favorite fictional thing besides Batman, probably.
Okay.
And it's. It's if I was making it would be in the top 10 things most important to me in my entire life.
Jeez.
Like
Wow.
it would. Yeah. Definitely. I would say. Of course.
I would go air, food.
You know what I mean. Of course,
Definitely
family
sleep.
and
Sleep,
stuff,
sleep's
and career and whatnot, and religion and stuff. But and the Panthers. But it's up there in the top for me, man. These movies have helped define who I am, for better or for worse. And I know Jerry would.
You still wear robes to this day everywhere you go.
Jerry would echo that sentiment if he was here. What did you guys think, since we're in some non-spoiler stuff, about the John Williams score? So he scored all 3 of the original and these 2. Kate, did you enjoy it?
I loved it. I'm listening to the
did
whole
too,
thing
yeah.
thinking, man, I got to get this soundtrack.
I bought the soundtrack.
I need to.
The last time I bought a CD was The Force Awakens, which was a good soundtrack, not a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
This one it's up there, man. It's close to. He scored the prequels too.
Yeah.
But it's probably the best since Phantom Menace, because Phantom Menace has Duel of the Fates and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the score, Andrew, or just the Star Wars score?
Yeah, but there's some classic Star Wars music in there. That's just, I don't know. Star Wars music is always good.
Okay, without spoiling this, tonally and on an execution level, did this film feel like Star Wars to you? And I know that's a very subjective thing to try to quantify.
Yeah.
But Andrew, coming out, what did you
I
think?
do feel it felt a little non-Star Warsy than some other movies. I don't know.
Without spoiling, is there anything that you could tell our listeners why that would be the case?
I don't know. There's just a plot point that goes on for a large length of the film that I felt was maybe a little un-Star Warsy. Maybe that's what I kind of put my thumb on and think this is what doesn't feel as Star Warsy as other things. It almost at times doesn't feel like the next part of the Star Wars story. It more feels like a side Star Wars story. It almost gave me the same kind of feeling as Rogue One kind of did.
That's how I felt about the Canto Bight stuff.
Yeah.
But
I
the other stuff I didn't.
everything kind of associated with that storyline as well.
Yeah, it
was,
feels
to
like
me,
that
yeah.
would have been better left to a novel or something that
Yeah.
Jerry would only read.
Yeah,
but,
you tell us
and
it's
I
really
wouldn't
good,
read it,
and we
yeah.
ignore them. Yeah,
And I read the Wikipedia summary and maybe
Wikipedia?
Yeah, Wikipedia.
yeah.
Which Rian Johnson, by the way, said Star Wars movies aren't supposed to be Wikipedia pages. More on that later.
Okay.
Did it feel like Star Wars to you, Kate?
Aspects of it certainly did.
Yeah.
I would agree that the portion that Andrew's thinking of was, I don't know, even if it just felt not Star Warsy, that's a good term.
Thanks.
Or if it just felt like it wasn't appropriate for a movie. to me, it didn't make sense in general. But I definitely, towards the beginning, towards the end, it felt very Star Wars to me.
That's Star Wars, baby.
That's Star Wars.
It felt more like Star Wars on a second viewing to me, especially as she was saying toward the climax of the film.
Yeah.
And toward the middle, I don't know if it really did. Even though it played with a lot of classic elements of the original trilogy, something just felt different. And that's what people wanted coming out of The Force Awakens, because Star Wars fans complained it was too much like A New Hope.
Yeah.
So let's get to the big question before spoilers. How did you feel about porgs, Andrew?
I think I like porgs more the second time.
Really?
Watching it. I mean, I don't know. I didn't care about them at all the first time. Like, I didn't know what a porg was. I don't think I'd heard that term going into the movie.
Oh, wow. Because, you avoided the trailer.
I avoided the trailer, so I'd seen a picture of a porg. Like, I guess there's one screaming at the camera in the trailer. So I kind of knew that there was this creature and that people really liked it in this movie. And then they're all over the place, and they're cute little creatures, but I didn't come out of this movie feeling like one way or the other towards them. The second time, though, I don't know. Maybe it's because the people I was with were laughing more at porgs the second viewing, that I was like, oh, okay, they endeared themselves a little bit towards me. But I mean, really, I don't care one way or the other. I'm kind of with Chewie. Spoilers, but we won't talk about that.
What about
Chewy's opinion on porgs is my opinion on porgs.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about
Is
you,
that
Kate?
really a spoiler?
I don't want to get into. I mean, I don't want to get into anything too much. If you haven't seen, I don't know why you're listening to this if you haven't seen the movie already. But in case I haven't, I mean, it's a cute little scene. I wouldn't want to ruin it, even though it's not has nothing to do with the story. I mean, it's not like a plot twist or anything.
There is a lot of animal rights subtext in this movie, though.
Yeah, it's
really
all
is.
worth it, Brad. It's all worth it.
What'd you think about the porgs, Kate? Because this was a big thing
Couldn't
going.
care less.
Yeah.
I had heard of them beforehand. I went into GameStop and there was just a whole bunch of merchandise already. So I guess really my initial impression was, oh, this is this version's Ewoks. Gotcha. Okay, cool.
How did you miss it? Because, like she said, there was porgs everywhere, like Target, GameStop. It's hard to miss.
I don't know. I was actually just listening to a podcast where a guy he had went to Japan and he went to the store and there's these porg things all over the place and he had no idea what they were, even though he considers himself a Star Wars fan. He's like, what are these things? And then like a couple days later, the trailer comes out with porgs and he's like, he felt like he had seen into the future or something. That's what he said. But I mean, I don't know. Again, I knew it was a thing. Like people post that picture a lot from the trailer. That's still from the trailer. So I knew they were a thing. I don't know where I would go to see porg merchandise. So I don't know.
Just wherever.
I love the porgs, man. I was worried going in like it would be too Ewok-y. It's not that I hate the Ewoks. Sometimes I think it just lingers a little bit in Return of the Jedi with them. But they remind me of Cookie because which is my beagle. They're cute, but God, they're loud and they can be annoying. But I don't know. There was something
there was just something in the movie. I didn't really feel one way or the other about them.
I appreciated that they looked more like they were physically present.
Yeah.
That's the thing I felt about the entire movie. I appreciated more.
Well, a lot of stuff is practical and puppeteered.
Well, supposedly, I heard they added porgs to the film because when they were filming all this stuff on like the Jedi Island or whatever, there were just natural birds there that were like in every shot.
Yeah.
And so they just had to do something about it, and so they added these porgs. Like I don't know.
Which was cool.
I read that somewhere. I don't remember where.
The Jedi Temple on Octo. All right, are we good to go into spoilers?
Let's spoiler it up, baby.
All right, let's roll the reel forward to spoilers for Star Wars The Last Jedi starting now. One thing I enjoyed about this movie is it felt like the most, even if it's not Star Warsy, it's got the most literal Star Wars maybe of any movie outside of Return of the Jedi, but I think even then it rivals it.
What?
Like as far as
Space battles
and action scenes
well, I mean,
and stuff like that.
Half the film is a space battle.
Exactly.
A continuous space battle.
Which could be a detriment to the film. But
we're in spoilers, right? Okay.
Yeah, we're in spoilers. So I absolutely love this opening scene. I don't like the humor with Poe Dameron necessarily. Are you
there?
Let's address this real quick before we get into this scene, because one of the major problems people have with this film is the humor, and there were certain elements of the humor I had a problem with, and I'll give you an example. The Luke Skywalker, when he throws the lightsaber over his shoulder.
Yeah.
Beautiful moment, set up by JJ. arguably in one of the most iconic shots in all of Star Wars when she goes up to the top of the temple at the top of in TFA.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And then when he tosses it, I was in my head. I was just
You cried.
I was so upset.
That was the first
wasn't
scene he
part I
yelled up
cried.
at.
I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, out of all the stuff that Luke Skywalker wouldn't do.
Yeah.
This is probably what he wouldn't do the most, in my opinion. It was stupid.
And it was so. I thought that part was so telegraphed by the music too. It's like the music's like it's all nice. It's a nice scene, and the music starts building up somewhere. I'm like something's about to happen. I'm like, oh, they're gonna do something funny, aren't they? He's gonna like throw it away or something. I'm like, sure enough, he throws it. I'm like, so it wasn't even like funny to me. Like I didn't care about it, but it was just kind of like.
Fell flat.
Yeah, I'm like, I was from that scene. I was like, oh, are they going with this kind of humor in this? So it's kind of like almost Thor Ragnarok, Guardians.
Kind of irreverent.
Yeah.
It seemed like something that Tony Stark would do and not Luke Skywalker.
But I do want to see a version of The Force Awakens where they cut that scene to the end of Force Awakens and Luke Skywalker just throws the lightsaber over his shoulder and just cuts to credits. Like I for some reason I think that'd be hilarious because The Force Awakens leads up to this moment. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
anyway.
I don't know. So you can address that scene, Kate, or the humor overall. What'd you think? Was it too much?
I don't know. I'm a little torn. I kind of feel the same way I felt about, in Thor when they let Bruce Banner jump and that pratfall. Something about it just felt, I don't know, disrespectful maybe. I know that sounds real dumb.
It undermined that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's right. As soon as that scene started, I was like, oh, that's going over his shoulder. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily like that part. Back to the beginning of the film, the Poe Dameron, your mama stuff, I didn't mind. It's nothing worse than something Han Solo would say.
I don't mind that joke specifically. The whole scene was just, I don't know. There was a lot of that type of humor in this movie that I don't like. I feel like in the original trilogy, maybe I'm just, rose-colored glasses in this. What's the phrase? I felt like the humor was a lot more natural with what the characters were doing and the situation that was going on, and Yoda just bopping R2-D2 on the head because he's trying to take his food. It just kind of, I don't know. In this, it just felt like it was humor for humor's sake. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Sometimes it felt like that. I mean, it was more organic humor, like when the Vulcan won't start, Carrie Fisher says, "You want me to get out and push?"
Yeah.
In the original trilogy. I mean, stuff like that's always been there. It's just that your mama joke seems like the low-hanging fruit of jokes, I
will say, I thought that was probably one of my problem with the humor is a lot of the humor I just didn't find humorous. Like a lot of something humorous would happen and it would do literally nothing for me. You know what I mean? I just didn't find it funny most of the time. That was one, I guess. That whole scene, I was like, oh, this is kind of funny, but I'm not sure I necessarily want it here.
I think the humor was more present in the first hour or so of the film, and as the film progressed, it was less and less humor. I mean, there were tiny moments, but overall, if something brings this film down, it's other than, that's not that. The only problem I have is the lightsaber problem. Everything else I can give a pass to.
All right.
So go ahead, Kate.
No, I'm just wondering what your lightsaber problem is.
The lightsaber where he tosses it over his shoulder. I just didn't like that scene because it felt out of character. Not like lightsaber fights or anything like that, but the bomber mission at the beginning.
Yeah.
With Rose's sister, Paige, where she sacrifices herself. One of the most well-shot, one of the most intense moments in all of Star Wars, even though I do not know this character, Paige Tico, at all.
Right.
What'd you guys think about that scene, Kate?
I liked it a lot. There were some just technical things that were a little weird about the bombers themselves. I'm sorry.
Is it
the dropping bombs?
Yeah, I don't know. Just implied
this is
that it
space, and they don't wear spacesuits. I mean, it's
well,
not
that
like...
was my other problem. It really irked me that she didn't have anything on and was totally fine.
Well, the first bomber they showed, the guy was wearing some sort of spacesuit. I'm like, good for you.
He was wearing a jumper and a mask.
Yeah, it's a mask.
Not...
I understand.
Astronaut.
No, but I'm saying good for you. It's Star Wars, for God's sakes.
It's science fantasy, not science fiction.
But I was appreciative of that mask. I'm like, okay, cool,
so
mask.
then I completely overlooked that.
Yeah.
And the actual scene was very nice. And I meant to look this up and I didn't. Is what she's holding the symbol that... Oh, man, what's that character's name?
From Rogue One. The blind guy?
The blind guy.
What is Chera Imwe. I'm one with the Force, and the Force is one with me. I think it is.
I think
that's
what
not 100%.
It looked like to me, and to me that was just like a nice. Okay, we're all in the same universe. They've got their own Force beliefs that are different from the Jedi and the Sith, but on the same page.
Which is a theme throughout this movie, so that makes sense.
I appreciated it. I thought it was very nice, and I thought it was, it's this courageous thing, and these people are. It was war. I liked it. It was good.
She had.
I don't like war though. Let me just throw that out there.
Yeah, she had half, and then her sister Rose had the other half of this necklace. So you enjoyed that scene, Andrew?
The opening scene. Yeah, the whole opening scene in general, the whole opening battle, I think is really good.
And it really established Poe Dameron as like the best pilot.
Yeah,
it really,
that was really cool. That one little maneuver he did.
Oh yeah, the best pilot since Han Solo in Star Wars.
That one.
That one. There is that one. If you've seen
moves.
it, you know the one I'm talking about, though, in the opening scene.
Okay, I don't want... It's impossible to talk about this film without talking about politics, so here we go.
No, it's not.
I think it is.
I was going to be okay, but let's hear it.
Okay, so...
Roy Moore.
Yeah. One of the biggest problems that people have with this movie, and we're just going to go ahead and get to it, is it doesn't truly... It addresses it, but not in the way fans necessarily wanted. The parentage of Rey.
Really?
For 2 years we had 2 years of For 2 years we had speculation of, is she a Kenobi? Is she related to the Emperor? Is she Kylo Ren's twin sister? This, that, and the other. And Kylo reveals to her in the midst of one of the best parts of the movie, mid-film, that she is basically nothing. That she is trash. That her parents basically sold her into slavery for drinking money, right? Yeah. And I was kind of, at first, that was one thing that didn't bother me, because I saw the point the movie was trying to make, that it doesn't have to be a chosen one, right? The Force belongs to everybody, and you can come out of nowhere. The opposite of the Metachlorians conceiving Anakin, right? In the prequels. The complete opposite. And he said that he intended this to be Obama. This was a quote from Rian Johnson, okay? So a lot of times I'm like, like, there was a podcast, the second Planet of the Apes movie, whenever Caesar tosses the gun into the water, I was like, subtle gun control message, guys? And you're like, shut up, okay? This is not that case, because this is the director saying he's making this message, that this was Obama's Star Wars movie, that Rey is an Obama parallel, as in she is not somebody that's chosen, born into money, grew up with the trust fund, or anything like that, all right? She is... she's doing it with sheer will. She's working hard to get where she wants to get. Does she have natural ability? Sure she does.
A little bit,
But you look at Kylo Ren and the parallel with him, he has everything, right? He has the Skywalker blood, the Solo blood. He's a great pilot. He's a lot of natural ability, and he's born into this iconic family. Right? Yeah. And yet, what's he do? He kind of pisses it away. He falls to the dark side. He gives in, right? Whereas Rey, not born with this silver spoon, she's going, presumably, down a lighter path, or the better path of the two. And he wanted to show that, it's not being a chosen one and stuff like that. But Kate's been shaking her head for like 5 minutes, so I'm sorry I talked too long. Go ahead,
it's Kate. They literally did exactly what I was hoping they would do with Rey's parents.
You wanted them to be nobody.
Yeah, I came out of The Force Awakens saying, well, I really hope they just make her literally related to nobody. Because that's what she should be. She's just a new character. She's out of the woodwork. And it lends a lot to the dichotomy between the two characters. One's got nothing, the other's got everything. It's what you do with it, blah, blah, blah. But I was extremely happy they did that. And I felt like the way they handled it in that scene was very good.
Yeah, I'm happy about it too. That was not an initial problem I had coming out even the first view. And what'd you think of that, Andrew?
Well, I was a little torn after the first one, after Force Awakens, because to me, these core Star Wars films are about the Skywalkers, Anakin, and then Luke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's what I kind of wanted the new trilogy to be about. You know what I mean? and maybe we're getting that with Kylo Ren a little bit. He's a Skywalker, you know what I mean?
He is.
So, but I also, after Force Awakens, I did not want her to be secretly Luke's son or secretly Obi-Wan's
I hope she's
son.
not Luke's son.
Oh, well, that's not very progressive of you.
I'm joking.
But
Roy Moore.
But so I mean, I think I'm happy with that reveal that her parents are nothing. I still definitely, I think there are people out there that feel like, he was lying to her. You know what I mean?
What do we think? Do we think that's the truth or he's lying?
I think it's the truth.
I think it's the truth. I hope it stays the truth.
Yeah,
JJ's got the freedom to do what he wants to. He'll make her somebody in the third one. I don't want him to do that. Let me make that clear. But I just kind of feel like that's what JJ will
I feel
do.
like I would be okay. And this is a theory I heard recently. I would be okay with her being a clone if it was done right. Like some people
That would be
theorize
something.
that in Empire Strikes Back, Luke loses his hand in the lightsaber. In Force Awakens, that lightsaber shows back up, and so I think this is an expanded universe idea that somebody finds Luke's hand and clones him or something like
He's
that.
like an evil Luke Skywalker. It was
Something
like a
about-
comic in the 90s.
I'm not sure I would mind the idea of Rey being some sort of like clone from somewhere, but
Okay, but then once again, you'd have weird sexual tension between relatives. Because you can't say that there's not weird sexual tension
because she
between
would be
Rey
a clone of
and
Luke
Ben.
I didn't mind it in the original trilogy. I wouldn't mind it.
I'm
Well,
just saying,
we
it would be
didn't.
It's weird.
rehashing an old subject.
Yeah,
I
which
guess.
was the whole complaint about The Force
Right.
Awakens. I want to say this, and I think Andrew and I discussed this, because usually we try to wait for the podcast, but this was so meaty that we couldn't do it. At least I couldn't.
Yeah.
I probably listened to more podcasts, read more interviews, listened to more interviews than any movie I've ever seen, including coming out of it, including The Dark Knight, which is crazy.
This year, I probably listened to and read more reviews for Transformers: The Last Night.
Yeah.
That's a true statement.
Well, this is what Rian Johnson said, okay? So
boy.
when it comes to the whole Rey's parents thing,
Yeah.
the worst thing that Luke Skywalker could hear in Cloud City at Bespin was that this bad guy, this ultimate evil, Darth Vader, was his father. That was going to devastate him because he never would have wanted that, right?
Yeah.
Whereas here, Rey wants more than anything to be relevant. That's what she
Yeah.
really
wants
wants.
to
She
find her place.
desires. Yeah, find her place. She even says, I want to find my place in all this. And when he tells her, you're nothing, you're trash, that's the worst thing she can hear. That's
Yeah.
as devastating to her
Yeah.
as Vader being Luke's father. And to me, that really justified that decision, if it even needed to be justified.
Yeah.
You guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good
Okay.
scene too. Like, it was
I
one of the
love
better
that's my
parts of the
favorite
movie.
scene.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Canto Bite. This is one of the biggest complaints of the movie, which is
I like how you said
casino
I like
plan.
how you said you wanted to talk about this movie chronologically. We went from the opening scene to the parents of Rey.
I
now
take
we're at
that
the Canto
back. We're
Bite.
not talking about it chronologically
At
but-
all.
But I have all the major points here. I've got
Okay.
5 pages of show notes, so don't worry.
Okay.
Let's get this out of the way, because I think this is most people's least favorite part of the movie. They
Canto
find it the
Bite.
least interesting. Andrew, you seem to agree.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I feel like most of that storyline with the ship and then, this is a part of it was all not very super interesting.
It just felt like I don't want to be here right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
But see,
Kate.
my question for you is, you had more issue with them actually being in the casino area or with everything that led up to it? Because I'm with Andrew. I had a problem with the whole
The whole
long,
storyline.
slow
The
speed
story to
chase?
get them to Canto Bite felt contrived.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
especially
we got to
'cause-
get an excuse to get to this Academy Award winning actor.
and it was
Like,
all and that in turn all felt like an excuse just to get Finn onto the Snoke ship so he could fight Phasma.
yeah.
Like it felt
well,
like
and to develop the relationship between Finn and Rose.
Which
mean-
I enjoy that relationship. That is something I
But
like.
it would not have existed otherwise. You know what I mean?
they could have
Yeah.
maybe put it in a more interesting, relevant story.
I like
but-
Canto Bite though, because I don't necessarily like the stuff that's going on with them chasing them and the failures. And by the way, when they first went down to that racetrack, I thought it was going to be pod racers.
Oh, me too.
I was
totally
like,
did.
I
I
was
totally
like, oh
did.
my
yeah.
god, they're gonna go here, and they didn't, and I didn't end up disliking these failure creatures.
Well,
But
plus, there's a scene similar to that when the kid opened the door and he's letting all the animals out while while Rose and Finn are on one of these creatures and the kid's going yay whoopee or whatever, and I was just thinking of like Anakin, you know what I mean?
How
just going,
awesome
like,
would it have
yippee!
been if the Master Code Breaker would have been Jar Jar?
Oh my god!
Or can you imagine? A lot of people wanted the Master Code Breaker to be Lando.
Yeah.
But since he betrays them, they didn't want to repeat Lando betraying them from Empire, so that's why he didn't make that decision. Rian Johnson, he said.
The whole thing that led up to that though, they called what's her face Maz
Kanata.
Yeah.
And like if I recall, Poe's the one like talking to her.
Is it Poe? Who?
Poe met her.
When?
Poe arrived to save the day at Maz Kanata's castle.
And he just met her then?
I guess
and then
he
they
met
just
her
called
after.
her. I don't know. It just seems
But
weird.
he didn't call her. It was Finn, I assume, that called her.
No, because even
Finn,
the second time around, Poe was like, I'm pretty sure Poe was like, I know who to talk to or something. And Finn's talking to her too, but Poe's definitely talking to her as if he knows her during that conversation. That's what it
which
felt like to
makes
me.
not much sense because this picks up right after. It's not like there's time in between for those two characters to develop a relationship.
I mean, I guess, but
That's
It's-
a minor nitpick.
but that's super minor because Han knew her. Why wouldn't Leia know her? Why wouldn't Leia have introduced her to all the other people that were important to her command? Like, she was supposed to be a big major character that you go to when you need stuff.
I whatever.
So
I
that's
don't know.
not that's like irrelevant to me.
Jerry,
I mean, you could just assume everybody knows everybody then. Like,
Jerry
I do.
hated.
Maz, I don't know.
Jerry hated the Canto Bite stuff. He wanted me to bring this up on
Yeah,
the
he
pod because of.
But he should have been here, so we won't talk about him.
See, I like it because it's like an affluent version of the Cantina, is
Mm-hmm.
what it is, and just being.
It's
and
an interesting concept, I think.
I like the music. It was very reminiscent of the Cantina music, and it was. I like it was very visually interesting. I thought Jerry liked it, but he wanted more established creatures and maybe characters. Or can you imagine Jar Jar being a high roller in that casino?
It's weird though. It's weird because like I know this is the point of it, but you know we have the whole galaxy essentially at war. You know what I mean? The Republic's been destroyed. You have the rebels now against the First Order and stuff. And this place purposefully feels unattached from all that, right? It's like it feels almost untouched by the war. It's this nice.
But that's the point.
It's the
supposed
point
to
of
be.
it. My only problem is I felt that way a lot during the prequels. They would go places, and I'm like, isn't there a huge civil war going on? And everywhere seems perfectly fine. And so it just reminded, I know that's the point of it, but it still just reminded me of prequel, cities because of that. And I think that
did
probably
look
rubbed me a little wrong.
prequel-y.
Well, I mean, I know you said that's the point of it, but really the point was not to say that it was untouched by war. It was to say that it profited from war.
And
Sure,
both
but-
So it
sides,
was
too.
definitely
Right.
touched by war.
No, I know.
What
but
were
it
your
wasn't-
guys' thought when
It wasn't war ravaged or anything was my point. It wasn't
Right.
like,
the people on Canto Bite were basically pulling an Obadiah Stane from Iron Man, right?
Yeah.
They're double dealing. They're selling to the First Order and the New Republic, the
Yeah.
Resistance now.
yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, and I get what they're doing with Benicio kind of in this gray area, and I didn't like his stutter, by the way. I don't know. It's not that I mind a stuttering character. Something about it just seemed off-putting to me.
I don't know, I
Well, he
liked it.
wasn't supposed to be a likable character per se. I mean,
Yeah, no,
I don't know how to
get
phrase
that.
it except for maybe they did that because it was unsettling.
Maybe they did. So, I mean, it wasn't like god-awful terrible. I don't know. It's just, especially the first time, it kind of took me out of the movie just a little bit. But you could argue that all the Canto Bite stuff does. In the movie, we'll get there at the end, but it epilogues at Canto Bite, which was crazy. But there's a lot of animal stuff, animal cruelty messaging in here. A lot of people have a problem with this. They think it's heavy-handed. I'm an animal lover. It didn't take me out of the movie. To me, creatures and animals have always been a part of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was just like a little bit at the end when they were like, this was all worth it or something. Like there was some line when they released
At
all
the
the
end
animals.
of
That
the
was
Canto Bite
cheesy.
bit?
It was
Yeah,
Rose.
yeah, well-
It's worth it now. She takes the harness
Finn
off
says
the Theta.
Finn says it's worth it, and then she takes off the thing and he escapes. Like it's worth it now.
Yeah.
and I'm
That
like,
was cheesy.
isn't the whole Republic about to die? Like you know what I mean? Like you really think that was worth it, guys? Should you be stressed out a little bit? Like you're about to get caught by the police again? So It was cheesy, yeah.
Rose
but
had some. She had probably the best line of the movie, but she had some of the cheesiest stuff too. But
if you
she's
think
an
the line I'm
earnest
thinking
character.
of, then I'm not sure I agree with that. But
I would
Okay.
say that line's cheesy too.
yeah,
I
the
love that.
the one at the end we're talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, that's a pretty cheesy line too.
I love that line. All right, well, let's. We're hopping back and forth
Yeah, we
about
are.
as much as this movie did, which all Star Wars movies do that. Although this
Sure.
one, you could argue it was a little bit more jarring than others. Okay, so yeah, Kate.
No, sorry. I just remembered something that I definitely want to talk about the whole slow speed chase thing. But I can't imagine that you're not going to talk about it. So.
Okay.
Chip chop chip.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We're gonna talk about the slow with Laura Dern's character, General Holdo or whatever, and all that stuff. Yeah, we're gonna get there. I want to jump back to Luke really quick. So I feel like I've got to know Rian Johnson after this movie has come out because he's a very personable guy. He's always been a guest. He's friends with the people on the Slash Filmcast. So that's one of my favorite podcasts. He's been a guest on there a bunch.
I think he's really he seems very, I don't know, kind of has his finger on the pulse of like the whole kind of geek movie culture and stuff.
Yeah.
Like he's supposedly like he's tweeted out to like Red Letter Media that he's a fan. They're the ones that do like they did those big prequel reviews. You know what I mean? Those like hour and a half, 2 hour long prequel reviews and stuff.
Yeah.
So and then like you said, Slash Film and stuff. So I think he's into this whole kind of geeky
He's got his
movie
hand
culture.
on the pulse of the fandom for sure. Right. And so anyway, Rian Johnson personally, he grew up a devout Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Parents took him to church all the time, went every time the doors were open, and he kind of, as he grew older, saw that the institution of the church was a bit flawed, and he still considers himself a godly or spiritual person. It's just he doesn't really care for organized religion.
Sure.
And he was trying to put some of that in this movie because, I want to see what you got. Maybe I'm completely off basis. I see Andrew kind of shaking his head.
Oh no, I think it was pretty. Yeah, it's in there. All
It
right.
may be too heavy-handed, but the Force kind of being God or spirituality or however you want to say it, this higher presence or higher power. But then you have these institutions like the Jedi and the Sith, which have kind of brought down the Force in a way. They've almost robbed it when it's supposed to be something that should be accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
And to me, this is one of the best messages of all of the Star Wars movies.
It's interesting because I definitely don't think it was heavy-handed towards Christianity or actual religion. I think in some ways it was a good kind of rebuttal to the prequels, because I think a lot of people's problems with the prequels, or maybe that's kind of the point to some degree, is the Jedi Council and stuff, and how almost inept they seem. You know what I mean? And and how they're too involved with the non-spiritual parts of their societies. You know what I mean?
They're strict, man. They're like a bad Baptist church that wants to stop you from doing anything and everything. If they would have just let Anakin and Padme be together, there's no Darth Vader. That's all Anakin wanted. He wanted to be with her. He loved her.
I'm not sure I 100% agree with that. I still think he was being corrupted. And it was more so the fact that she was going
That's
to
why
die.
he was corruptible. That's what caused that weakness and that doubt in him. And
I
that's
think
the
it was just
Emperor
his love
played
for
that.
Padme, period. And I still think if he was still having visions that Padme is going to die, that the Emperor is still going to be able to, you don't want the love of your life to die, regardless of whether it's a secret love or not. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah,
You're
I
chewing into
see
the
that.
mic.
But go ahead.
You're chewing into the mic.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's this delicious gingerbread man right here
Oh, jeez.
that Kate made. But did you want to say anything about
No,
that?
I was just thinking the whole feel of that reminded me a lot of any of the video games I would have played. I always played as Sith characters.
Yeah.
Because looking through their actual code, you nailed it. Jedis are basically really ultra strict and to the point that you can't do the right thing.
What's that quote from the prequel or whatever? In my eyes, the Jedi are wrong or whatever. What's that?
I don't know that exact quote. One of
Okay,
my
but-
favorite quotes.
But you get what I'm saying. Yeah.
It's kind of like the Obi-Wan quote, what we think's right varies differently from our own point of view.
Sure. I think that's
Right.
what.
Raylan,
But
kinda
anytime that you play through as a Sith character in Knights of the Old Republic, you
great
can
game.
you can go through as a good Sith. You can make light side choices and still be a Sith. So I think that they approached that very well, and to me that felt like the extended universe being brought into the the basic thing that we knew, where it was very black and white originally, Sith are bad, Jedi are good. And that's another thing that I noticed with them bringing in, I wish I could remember that guy's name, but the Eastern inspired religion with the medallion that Rose has.
Chirrut Imwe.
Right, bringing that into it, expanding the whole idea that there's a lot to the Force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has a lot of different aspects, and this is just 2 views of it.
Exactly.
And I really appreciated that.
Man, that's the part that resonated. When I read that about Rian Johnson, it resonated with me because I have a very similar kind of path with that. I grew up going to church and whatnot, and I'm not getting into this story now,
okay.
but anyway, like I
but now he's an atheist.
No, I'm not. I made a comment that was basically about judgment and talking about the golden rule or something like that, and it was just viewed completely different in a terrible way by the congregation, and they thought I was condoning something that I wasn't. I was just talking about not judging those who do, and at that point I was viewed completely different by these people, and I kind of had a falling out with the church. And I've been to church, I've been to weddings, funerals, I've went for holidays, and I've went here.
So you've literally been to the physical buildings.
Yeah, that's right. And Jerry is a youth minister.
What?
For one of his jobs, and I've went a lot with to y'all's church and stuff, and I've enjoyed my time there. But I don't know. I've never. I pray. I feel in touch with God and spirituality. I consider it guides how I do things morally, but the church, I have no desire for it to be a part of the church, and that kind of just resonated with me because it was not exactly like Ryan's journey or the point he's trying to make here, and it's something I debate having my own daughter here. What am I going to do? Because I want to instill spiritual values in her, but I don't.
So let her watch the original trilogy. Should be
fun. That's true. So Godspeed on to the next point. Let's talk about Laura Dern, General Holdo, and the stuff with the slow speed chase that happens. So I'll just summarize this really quick here. They can track them through hyperspace, which is something
the First Order can track the rebels.
Yeah, which is something the Resistance.
Whatever.
They're rebels. All right.
Rebels now.
They say rebel scum.
Yeah.
Does in this,
what?
For God's sakes. But anyway, so which that was something that was mentioned in Rogue One about how this could be something that could possibly be done, light speed tracking, which is something I didn't notice until somebody brought it up on another podcast. I think it was the Force Cast.
Okay.
But anyway,
Nerds.
So they basically kind of got to sit still and be there and not be picked off by the Supremacy, which is Snoke's giant Star Destroyer. What? I mean, it is.
No, it's just getting bigger and bigger. If you thought Star Killer Base to the Death Star was something, you have this. I mean, how
this
huge was that ship?
I mean, it wasn't as big as the Death. I mean, maybe wide as the Death Star.
Might have been, yeah.
But anyway, maybe wider. You guys get into this. Kate, you wanted to talk about this. What were your thoughts on this part of the film? Why?
I didn't like any aspect of it. I felt like I felt like it was a little contrived. It was just an excuse to send people somewhere else. Why didn't we just go immediately onto Snoke's ship? I know that they gave us a reason, but it didn't feel right. Yeah. And as far as her character, Holdo, I didn't like her at all. I mean, I think you were supposed to not like her.
Yeah.
But as far as from a leadership position, which, later on, Leia is trying to convince Poe that she did this because she's a good leader and that's how good leaders do things. But as far as I'm concerned, good leaders lead. They tell you what's going on. They direct you. They don't just say, I'm going to have this plan and I'm going to let everybody think that we're going to die until they decide that they're going to mutiny. And then I'm going to, continue to not tell them, but just kind of, make it happen.
It was a jumble. That part of the plot was messy.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Yeah. I mean, it was a mess. I mean, I don't know how you say it any other way. I mean, I'm sure people may try to justify it, and it sounds like you agree, Andrew. But
yeah,
while we're here talking about this stuff, let's get to the Leia almost death scene. And I can't wait to hear what you guys think about this. Okay. So Kylo wants to prove something to Snoke, as he always does. He goes out in his badass TIE silencer. That ship was awesome. Mm-hmm. And he goes to attack the ship that Leia is on, and he can't do it, No son can kill their mother. Of course, this happens, sadly. But, sons are usually closer to their mother. And even though he could kill his dad there, you could feel that he just couldn't do it to his mom. And even though another First Order tie takes the shot, it's not him, right?
Right.
And then Leia gets pretty much blown out into space.
Yep.
She sits there for a minute, levitates, if you will. Floats, yeah. And she's not levitating. Yeah, but so you get that second, you're like, oh, this is how they're going to kill her. This is it. What a beautiful moment, And this, of course, carries past in real life, sadly, so it made sense for them to kill her off.
Yeah.
And then you have this scene where she basically uses the Force, which is not, we never see her really do that other than to communicate with Luke in the stories. But she is the daughter of Darth Vader, so this isn't completely out of the question that she could have this ability.
No.
But she pulls herself back to the ship, and long story short, she survives that.
Yeah.
Rian Johnson really thought about making that her death. And they came back in after New Year's last year after Carrie, because she passed around this time last year.
Yeah.
And he said he wanted her and Luke to have that moment at the end, and he really didn't want to change the story just because she died.
He said it's JJ's problem now.
Yeah, which I'm sure we can talk about how they'll handle that, but there's many ways they can. I didn't have a problem with the actions of this scene, like what she did. It just looked bad for a movie that had a budget this big, and so many other set pieces look fantastic.
Yeah.
What did you think of this, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, that's my only issue with it. I'm fine with what happened story-wise. The scene looked a little wonky. I kind of know what they were going for, and it just looked just kind of weird, but not in a good sci-fi way. You know what I mean? It was just kind of...
It looked Batman versus Superman-esque.
Yeah,
what part of it seemed not good to you? Was it the set, or was it her physically, the way she...
I think the way she floated.
Yeah, exactly.
And came back toward the ship. It didn't look bad when she was out in the space. Had that have been her final moment, she just dies in space, which you would assume one would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was picturing like a school play and somebody on strings floating around. You know what I mean?
Like Peter Pan.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
didn't look good, guys, and it was.
I didn't think so.
The second time it didn't bother me as much. But
it didn't look awful to me. Don't get me wrong.
No.
It doesn't look like as bad as some of like the CGI stuff shoved in the originals or anything. But like it just the
I'd say it does. It's one of the worst looking things in
rough.
all of Star Wars, besides the CG stuff and like Phantom Menace.
Okay.
That's my opinion. Though.
I think it was that bad. I just thought it was wonky looking.
Yeah. So I mean, I just real quick, because I've already talked about the stuff with Laura Dern with Haldo. The scene though, which I did really enjoy, is when she basically sacrifices herself. And she hyperdrives through the supremacy, and you have that moment of silence.
Yeah. To me, this is almost the exact opposite of that. The scene, I love the visual and like this silence of it. I was like, wow, this is really cool. Storyline wise, I'm like, this is so stupid.
Cheap.
But that would have been another way, had Ryan wanted to kill Leia. She could have been the one that stayed behind and did that.
I guess.
I mean, I'm just, storytelling perspective, but go ahead.
No, I would agree. From a storyline perspective, I thought it was just cheap to just scooch, because I didn't like her character to begin with.
Man, you
and
hate Laura Dern here.
I like her as an
Abby
actress.
loved her. I just want to tell you.
Stop
I'm just
that.
kidding. I'm joking.
I liked her as an actress, but like the character itself is not a leader, and I didn't like that they were trying to say that she was a good one, and that's what Poe should be trying to be a good leader like her. She was garbage.
And the whole storyline with that, on one end not making sense, because why didn't she just speak up? On the other sense, it was also very cliche. You know what I mean?
It's like Armageddon.
Well,
Somebody stays behind.
Well, no. I just mean the whole Poe storyline of he's this hot shot, and Leia's kind of angry, but she tolerates him. You know what I mean? He gets, and now there's like this new person in charge. She wants nothing to do with them, and it just felt like, okay, they're gonna, things are gonna, it just seemed very cliche.
I like the hyperdrive scene. I mean,
visually, I love it.
But I also like the aftermath and the supremacy when, I like that. I like what comes after, and I like the visual. I like that silent moment in an otherwise very loud blockbuster film.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, Star Wars is always one of these films that, even though there's no sound in space, they're always having, you
Yeah.
always hear explosions and zip-zapping around and
Or a
in Star Wars.
powerful score.
Yeah, and in this, it's just completely silent, and it was cool.
All right, let's move on.
But I mean, the storyline wise, like, we're gonna see this in the next one? We're just putting droids and ships and hyperdriving them through. I mean, she with one ship destroyed like their whole like fleet. Like,
Yeah.
it was. That was all
Well, I
ridiculous.
mean, I think that you would never hyperdrive a ship that big, that important into another ship. This was the circumstances she was in. She was trapped.
Right,
there.
but
I
I'm
mean,
just saying, like, the size of their ship relative to Snoke's ship and all the other Star Destroyers and stuff, it's like, okay, well, imagine, you have one Star Destroyer, and that's all you need to destroy is one Star Destroyer. You could probably do it with, like, an X-Wing or something. Like, the relative size of it, I mean, that ship was massive, and then all the other ships.
Well,
Like,
she took out that one, like, wing or part of it, and then it just fell, I guess, because it aerodynamically couldn't stay afloat. I mean, I
because
Aerodynamically, yeah.
because space, it had to fall.
I know,
But-
which it wouldn't. But yeah, it's kind of like the bombs and zero gravity. That doesn't make sense. Well,
I'm willing to assume that they have magnets or little propulsion jets or something. That's minor, but it was.
I'm willing
noticeable.
to forgive some of the non-sciencey parts of Star Wars, but I'm saying, like, plot-wise, like, this seems like a hugely powerful tool that's easy to, everything can
It's
go in
like a
hyperdrive,
Deus Ex Machina, like just to get
Exactly.
out.
I mean, even like
get out of jail.
the little,
free card, like
the little fighter jets they use in the prequels, like Obi-Wan's little transport thing. He'd get into that ring and they go into like hyperdrive or light speed or whatever they call it in Star Wars. It's like, okay, well, this just seems like a super easy thing to do. Throw some R2 units into the back of one of these things and start just shooting them at things.
Okay, let's move on to Supreme Leader.
No,
Supreme Leader. Supreme Leader Snoke. So,
all right,
guess what, guys? Snoke dies.
Yeah, he does.
This is a big problem that people have with the movie.
As opposed to
Internet people.
animals.
Yeah, a lot of Star Wars fans have a problem with this.
Yeah.
General audiences, I don't know if they do. I mean, but you're talking to 2 Star Wars fans, or 3 right here. And I don't know if we have a problem. Andrew's looking for the third person. I don't know if we necessarily have a problem with it, and I'll tell you why. And I've kind of spoken with Andrew about this over the course of the past week.
Mm-hmm.
But killing Snoke, did you like it or not like it, Kate?
I liked killing Snoke because, to me, that was the Sithest thing they could do. It was. It was
That was
Ren.
Sith, bro.
It was Kylo Ren killing his master to
Yeah.
assume his position, and that is extremely Sith.
And then hoping to seduce Rey to be his apprentice, like going back to the
Right.
Sith rule of 2, even though he doesn't necessarily like the Sith and the Jedi.
Yeah.
Right.
It's evident he's dark side. I completely agree with you because it almost in a weird way supplants him above Vader, because this is something Vader, for all his badassery, never did. He never defeated the Emperor and then seduced Luke to be his apprentice. Not that he seduces Rey here. Maybe in another way he seduces Rey, but
Ew.
not to the dark side. But yeah, I mean, like, I like this
I think
too.
Anakin succeeded in his own way.
Yeah. I can't disagree with that. My brother actually made a good point. We were talking after
What?
the movie. Yeah, and it wasn't about Daisy Ridley's gorgeous looks. The point was basically, he said, and you'll appreciate this as a wrestling fan more than I will, and Jerry laughed at this too when I brought it up to him.
All right.
He says basically that Kylo Ren's the Roman Reigns of Star Wars.
Okay.
Like, he is supposed to be this ultimate, like, badass, like the worst villain since Vader, right? And just as powerful, maybe even as Darth Vader. Not just as powerful, but close to it, right? But who has he ever really defeated? What has he ever really done? I mean, he cheap shots his dad. He doesn't even really have to fight Luke at the
I'm
end.
sure he cheap shots his dad, but
He cheap shot Snoke. But
Yeah, he
again,
cheap shot
that is
Snoke, yeah.
incredibly
Who
Sith.
have we seen him fight that proves who he is?
yeah.
I mean, like, there's nothing.
Maybe not in like fights, but I would argue in The Force Awakens,
Yeah.
being able to just stop a blaster ray mid-air and hold it there
That was
without any
something special,
concentration
yeah.
and then letting it go when he felt like it. I mean, he's obviously very powerful.
Yeah. And we had never seen that in Star Wars. I mean, you see Vader deflect the blast with his hands at Cloud City, but he doesn't stop it. in midair. So yeah, I mean, he is obvious. I'm not arguing that he's a powerful force user, and the movie wants you to think that.
Yeah.
But it's just like, has that been earned?
Yeah.
And I don't know if it has.
He's a weak character.
I'm
a weak
telling
person, you know.
I'm devil's
mentally.
advocate.
Yeah.
I like I love Kylo Ren because he's conflicted, and that to me, like, he is a better version of what Hayden Christensen's Anakin was in the prequels. Like you really see he's such a good actor, Adam Driver, and he's in Girls too. And Abby and I love Girls, but have you watched Girls?
No.
A great show. Terrible people, but great show. But anyway, like he pulls it off. I see the conflict. I see the struggle like on his face. He's kind of emo. I mean, let's be honest, but I love him. I really like him. But a lot of people have problems with him, and my brother's not just the only one to say that. But it was kind of weird how he killed Snoke. Because
Oh no, I loved that.
Snoke's supposed to be this.
No one can betray me.
I want to go back to your point because it does prove Kylo's power. Because here's Snoke being this all-powerful being, like the most powerful thing since the Emperor, right? But he doesn't see until the last second Kylo turning that lightsaber to basically Darth Maul him, right?
I guess, but the way I saw that was more. I mean, because Snoke's going over the resolve. He's talking about the things that are going through Kylo's mind right then, but he's misinterpreting it. It's not directed at Rey. It's directed at him. So he's misinterpreted who the true enemy is, but he's seeing the final resolve to kill somebody.
Yeah.
He's seeing him getting ready to turn the lightsaber on.
And that's something I noticed more the second time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got it the first time. 'Cause I really appreciate that scene.
I mean, this is the
I've been
best
wanting
part
somebody
of the movie to me, the throne room stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite part too. But I kind of saw it like she said the first time watching through, and he's talking about it. I'm like, okay, he's gonna like go after like Snoke here. It definitely had that. Snoke doesn't actually see what's happening here, regardless of what he's gonna do. And I'm fine with it. I don't like the unused potential that they had in Snoke. I don't like the death of Snoke in that we're just not going to learn anything more about Snoke, it feels like.
It does feel like that way, at least within the context of the films we won't. But to me, just because Snoke's dead doesn't mean he's irrelevant. He was able to seduce the son of Han Solo, nephew of Luke Skywalker, daughter of Princess Leia.
Still a son.
Daughter of yeah, what's wrong with us gender bender tonight? But anyway, he was able to pull Kylo to the dark side.
Yeah.
And to me, that's an interesting story. That's a relevant story.
That we haven't seen yet.
And right?
Will we?
But we'll get it in a book trilogy or something, I'm sure.
That's completely irrelevant
But
to the
here's
movies.
the thing that Rian Johnson I know you'll disagree with this, but he said basically these movies aren't Wikipedia pages because what did you want him to do? Did you want him to get up and start giving exposition and tell his whole backstory? Like in Jedi, we don't know that the Emperor was Darth Sidious and the Chancellor and all that. Like he's a mysterious character. We only got that in the prequels. So,
but I hate that argument because we don't need that in the original trilogy because
But we need it here. Why?
Because the original trilogy we have this build up. We don't even see. You don't even see the Emperor till the Jedi, right?
No, he's in I think hologram and.
I bet it wasn't added in the special edition or something.
No, it was in. They added more, but there was a scene with.
But whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, so it's kind of like what we got with Snoke in Force Awakens. We don't get with the Emperor until Empire Strikes Back, and then you don't get, you don't really get to see him until whatever. The Emperor served a kind of a different purpose, or it served a similar purpose. I mean, but the main difference is the original trilogy was the original.
Yeah.
This is a sequel to that. Like, we know what's happened in the past. So, like, watching the original trilogy...
Well, there's 30-year gap,
watching the original trilogy, we don't necessarily know, how the Emperor became the Emperor necessarily. We don't know about this Republic that was dissolved in A New Hope and stuff. We just kind of get this general idea, and that's fine. We don't need to know. It's a good versus evil film, blah, blah, blah. This is a sequel to that. I know there's a gap and stuff, you know what I mean? But because of that gap, there's obvious things that we want and I kind of feel need to know, like, you know, Kylo Ren and Jedi and Luke's relationship seems relevant, and we kind of understood that more in this film. And so, who is this guy? How did he get to be this powerful? Where did he come from? It seems somewhere. To me, it would be like if there's another powerful Jedi out there, like up there with like Luke, and he's just there training Rey. Like, Rey meets him, and they start training, and it's like, where'd this guy come from? It's like, well, we're not going to explain it. It's like, kind of seems relevant to explain it. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't get Obi-Wan's, his whole life story in A New Hope, but, you know what I mean? But that was the original trilogy. You get what I'm saying? Like, this is a new character. He came from somewhere, and we've seen the past now. You know what I mean? So,
I just want to say this is a bigger problem, though, because JJ is brought in by Kathleen Kennedy. He creates these characters. Yeah. And, like, one of JJ's first questions is, all right, what's the end game? Where do we want to be from episode 9? Yeah. And they tell him that's for you to figure out. So he creates...
You're JJ Abrams.
Yeah, he creates Snoke. He creates Kyle. He creates all these good characters and cast all them, which is even more impressive because they're casted great. And like JJ always does, he opens mysteries, right? He's really good at posing questions, but he's not great at answering questions. Now... First thing Rian Johnson did before he started work is met with JJ, and he's like, all right, who's Snoke and who's Rey's parents and who is Snoke? Yeah. And he's like, that's for you to figure out, or whoever's doing episode 9, which he didn't know he was doing.
The student has become the master.
And it's like, so I think the problem is there should have been a end game, like there's not a overall end game.
Sure, that's fine. I mean, I don't know. I don't need Snoke to stand up and tell us who he is and sit there and like.
Tell me what you want. Like, what would you?
Like information about where
you
want
a flashback.
If that's what it takes, but like, I mean,
it could be in the scroll, the opening.
Could be in that too. I don't know, but it's something about like we keep hearing about Snoke and how he seduced Kylo and all this stuff, and it's like I don't know. It just seems it seems like such an obvious.
Do you think they would do prequels to these movies?
No,
not prequel movies.
Yeah,
but I mean, I'm sure there'll be plenty of expanded universe books and comics.
I can see
and blah,
it in
blah,
a TV
blah.
show too, but I don't know. These characters these actors are so famous. Like you'd have to recast. Adam Driver would do a TV. I don't know. Anyway,
I just want more. It's too much of a question mark for me.
It didn't bother me as much as if you'd have told me this going in. Like if I'd have been spoiled, I'd been like, "What the hell?"
The death doesn't bother me. It's just like this. There's all these questions that haven't been answered yet, and it just seems like a big question mark.
See, to me, the only thing that matters about Snoke is that he was the master, and now he's dead.
Yeah,
but I mean,
I'm okay with that.
I don't know. Seducing Kylo to the dark side, like how did this happen? Like where did they even meet? You know what I mean?
And now, canonically, if you look, that they are saying that he has another apprentice. Snoke does, besides Kylo. Yeah. It was in Star Wars Insider, which is canonically acceptable, and like the word is he has
It's a canonical magazine?
Yeah, like all the stories and short stories in that are considered to be canon. Okay. And like apparently, and I think it was mentioned in like one of the visual guides for Force Awakens that Kylo, on the Kylo Ren page, so basically the equivalent of this for Force Awakens, this book here, that he is one of 2 apprentices to Snoke. So that's out there. I mean, you're going to have to take a deep dive to find it, right? Mm-hmm. Of course, the internet's latched onto it. So maybe he has another apprentice. But I mean, in a way, I agree with you. Like, there's a lot I want to know, like the Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
I think they're still going to be relevant. Well, I assume when they say that he ran off with a group of students, those are the Knights of Ren.
That's what I would assume.
And who's to say that? I always thought that vision Rey had in Force Awakens was a flashback to the Knights of Ren going back to Luke's temple and destroying it. Yeah. But apparently it was not, right? So I think that was a
maybe her. It was.
No, because he laid waste to the Jedi temple that night, so he wasn't in full Kylo Ren gear. And
maybe he was. Who knows? We don't really know. We don't know, do we?
I would say on that one we do.
We do know that wasn't the night. We don't even know if the Knights of Ren were at the Jedi Temple. I think
we don't. And I agree. Like it's a vision. Like maybe
I think it's a vision to what's going to be in the 3rd movie.
That's possible. I've heard that. Maybe it's like a vision of the future. My point is it's like a vision. So maybe it is of that night, and it's just a vision, and so he's in his Kylo Ren thing in the vision, but it wasn't in reality. You know what I mean?
I could see that, yeah.
But whatever.
Okay, what about what followed this? How epic was that fight between Kylo and with Kylo and Rey fighting the Praetorian Guards? I mean, one of the best fights and so well choreographed in all of Star Wars.
Some people would really argue with you on that.
Really?
Prequel lovers.
No, I'm just saying I've had a couple of people. Somebody I went to the movie with the other night was complaining that they weren't using good sword techniques.
Oh, who was this?
Oh my gosh.
Nick.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'll talk to him
I'm just saying I personally really enjoyed it. I thought it was maybe a little more violent than some of the others.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
Especially with the whole head stab thing.
Oh, that was
but
so
I
badass.
loved it. I thought it was great.
Oh man, that was awesome. That fight, I mean, it was epic. That was, whether we think this movie's epic or not, that was an epic scene. We had never, I mean, we've seen stuff with Jedi teaming up to fight henchmen and whatnot, but
right.
I mean, it was so cool. Let me ask you guys a question. Did you guys think he was turning to the light side then?
Nope.
Did you?
I mean, I thought maybe, yeah.
For a split second, this is what I thought was going to happen. That he's saying, you know, no more light, no more dark. We're going to start something brand new, out with the old, in with the new, kill the past.
Yeah.
And like I thought that maybe he's got a good way of thinking, because the Jedi and the Sith hadn't done nothing but brought destruction across the galaxy.
Yeah.
So in a way, is Kylo Ren subjectively the good guy here? If he does this, and that's, to me, that makes him a good character. He's a complex character.
Right. I would agree with that. I would also say that it gives him the same mindset that Luke has.
Yeah.
I mean, Luke's whole thing and throughout this movie
Which is an odd mirror.
I want it to, well, not really. He was his teacher. He was his teacher before
But
Snoke.
it was more optimistic Luke at that point, because that's when he loses all hope, right? When he goes to kill Kylo.
Yeah, but I'm
no,
just saying.
that's a cool point that I hadn't thought of.
Yeah. I think it was good.
Let's move on to Luke,
No.
okay?
No.
This is a problem that people have. This is a major problem people have, especially
including Mark Hamill himself.
Mark Hamill himself does not necessarily like this. He said he had to be Jake Skywalker,
Yeah,
right?
so this isn't Luke Skywalker, this is Jake Skywalker.
Because he's like, he wouldn't quit. He's optimistic and all this. Did he destroy Luke Skywalker's character, Rian Johnson?
Well, here's a real question for you. Do
Okay.
people change?
Yeah,
Do
change.
people age?
Yeah.
Have you ever met a crotchety old man?
Yes.
Well, I would argue that
Sitting
they.
right across from me.
I would. Okay, I'm technically across the table from you too. I see where people are coming from, but I would almost argue that you've seen this with other Jedi. Do you really think that Yoda was always just like crazy? I mean, you know, when we see him in the original, he's fine, but they went back doing the prequels, and he's wise different.
general.
He's different. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, I can accept that in 30 years, a man has changed.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Obi-Wan went into hiding. Yoda went into hiding. So to think that Luke would do that on Ahch-To is not completely like out of the question.
Yeah. But they kind of did so more for necessity.
Yeah, whereas he
kill
was
him
more. I feel like he was making the choice.
Obi-Wan and
Kate-
Yoda were
Oh,
in
okay, I'm
hiding.
sorry.
Because the
more so.
Emperor would have hunted him
I mean,
down,
Luke
and
was
Vader
too.
would have.
Luke was in hiding too, but I guess for a different reason.
Yeah,
But I get your point.
let's talk about the flashback. Did you guys want to see, because you get the 3 versions of it, then you get
Yeah.
the real version that Luke had a moment of doubt, was going to kill him, decided not to kill him, right? Because he still held out just maybe a glimmer of hope. Did you guys want to see basically them destroying that Jedi temple, or were you content with the flashback we got? By the way, first flashback we've ever got in Star Wars. Never had a flashback.
Mark your calendars.
So we were in the tent. That's all we saw. Of course, we saw the aftermath, right? Because he's telling the
Right.
story and he kneels beside R2 and all that stuff. But did you guys kind of want to see similar to how Anakin went into the Jedi Temple on Coruscant,
I
something
don't think
like
it was
that?
necessary.
Yeah, I think we got everything we needed.
It was implied. I mean, we didn't necessarily need to see it. I thought they were gonna show it though, but they didn't.
Well, and it wouldn't be like children either. It would be people
Older people
his
too.
age. Yeah.
Yeah, you would assume, right?
I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I don't think they specified though. I mean, it could have been some young
It
kids.
could have. I don't think it matters.
some younglings. Let's talk about Luke's ability. This was my biggest complaint coming out of the movie initially. Luke's ability to astral project, basically, to pull a Doctor Strange. So you get this final showdown on Crate. It looks like we're about to have the most epic lightsaber fight since Revenge of the Sith between Kylo and Luke. And not this,
Since Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah.
The Obi-Wan Anakin?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that lightsaber fight.
I roll my eyes at that fight.
Really?
All the prequel fights are just over choreographed, flip-flopping around. Like, who cares? I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot of people that feel that way.
I just think most of the
disagree,
prequel
but-
fights are they get dumber as they go. I mean, whatever. There's I don't know.
Okay,
Anyway.
You
That's
wanted
beside the
a
point.
big showdown
piece.
between
Here's what
the
I
two
thought
of
was
them.
going to happen, and it obviously didn't. I thought Luke would raise the X-Wing out of the water, fly in, take out the AT-ATs, come and have this epic just showdown with Kylo Ren on Crate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that initially I was disappointed, but reflecting on the movie and going back to Rey's line of he died with peace and purpose, I realized Luke didn't need a bloodbath right then. Not that he couldn't have done it. Maybe he couldn't have because he's been so out of touch with the Force for so long.
Well, I mean, he even said that early in the film. Like, what do you expect me to do? Like, show up with my laser sword and take down the whole First Order?
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, my God, when he walks out of that Rebel base and is standing there and the score is just so great at that moment. I mean, it was that was an epic moment. And that you see him shoot. And you don't, at first, until you notice the feet not leaving a mark, you think he's there, like when the AT-AT or ATM-6 is now.
He looked different.
Well, yeah, he
And
had
that was
his
notable.
beard shaved.
Right.
He had the lightsaber out, yes.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I don't,
I mean,
My first thought was, where did he get a new lightsaber?
mine too, the blue one specifically, right?
Yeah.
Because it was destroyed when Kylo.
Well,
and-
the handle looked different. It was red, but
It
but
was?
yes, it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, it was a different handle, I thought. Yeah.
Okay.
It was, but my first
I-
thought was, I guess they just have these laying around, even
Right, I
though
just
he's kind of the
Makes
last
sense.
one.
Because, I didn't really think too much about it because Kylo has one and he had a different one in the flashback. So obviously, like these new Jedi that he was training, he taught him how to make a lightsaber. He knows how to make a lightsaber. So I guess I didn't really think too much about it.
So you're saying the first time you watched it, you knew he wasn't physically there?
Well, I noticed the feet not leaving a mark.
Oh, the
I knew
first
there
time you
was
did?
something
Yeah.
weird, but I did not specifically notice that. And on the second time through, I wondered if maybe that initial look between him and Leia when he puts the dice in her hand, I wondered if maybe that was a little more significant than I initially took it. Like, oh, hey, you're not actually here.
That was so awesome, that moment they had. Now, this is where I teared up, that moment, that last moment between Luke and Leia when he walks up. I mean, I had goosebumps, like, going up down my
Wow.
arm. Like, even though this is the second time, even though I knew we weren't going to get this big fight, but it's like, he did the heroic act. He stalled so that the resistance could survive. That's what they needed at that moment.
Yeah.
Well, and
And
he
he-
did die from it. I mean,
He did that. He sacrificed
it was self-sacrifice.
But, and this has to do with idiots that were in my theater in both showings. The initial reaction from my audience, I don't know about you guys, was when they show Luke's not there and he's like levitating, the audience laughs.
Really?
Yeah,
No.
like, oh, ha ha, he ain't there. He got Kylo Ren. I'm not even kidding.
Got
Both
him.
times. Yeah, kind of like that.
No,
I'm
I didn't
like,
get that. No.
Well, that's good you didn't
Yeah.
get that because that kind of, undercut the moment a bit. And initially, I talked to you about this, Andrew. I was upset that he has this all of a sudden ability to astral project because we've never seen this established as a Jedi power. But you talk about going from A New Hope to Empire, you get the ability to pull a lightsaber to you, or going from Empire to Jedi, the
Right.
Emperor can shoot lightning bolts. So that's not, they introduced new Force abilities. So
Well,
I'm
and
fine with
again,
that.
I would argue that it was such a big and strenuous move that it could kill him.
Oh yeah.
So, I
they
mean,
set
again,
it
I'm
up,
okay with
too,
it.
because remember Snoke's pairing them together, and he tells Rey, Kylo tells Rey, "You can't be doing this; it would kill you."
Mm-hmm.
So when Luke does it, it kills him.
Yeah.
And it's not like he's there for a split second. He's there staring down the First Order.
Yeah.
Man, that's just a great shot when you see all those ATM-6s there and stuff.
And I'm sorry. I was also okay with it not being a huge epic lightsaber battle because, again, it was his nephew. We'd already had a really good lightsaber battle as far as I'm concerned, even though it was the two people on the same side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I felt like I got the good
Yeah.
battle I needed.
Let me say this, though. He
No.
kills Han, right? He couldn't kill his mother. And then here, to me, he's supposed to be the next Vader, right? I mean, I think we can all agree with that. What would make him more hated than Vader if he killed Luke Skywalker? It almost is like wrestling where you have somebody put somebody over.
Right.
Like a new up-and-coming star beats John Cena because John Cena is an established
Well, I think that's kind of
star.
what the killing of Han was supposed to be.
But that wasn't even a fight between him and Han. Han just stood there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if
Doesn't that make it worse?
they have this fight and he killed, yeah, it kind of does, and he kills Luke.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh my gosh, this guy's killed Han Solo, cheap shot, and he's killed Luke Skywalker in a duel. Like, he really is something to be reckoned with.
And again, in a sense, he did. As a result of that battle, Luke Skywalker is dead. He is no more.
Yeah, but Kylo didn't do it. Luke did it to himself because he
But
astral projected.
Kylo Ren doesn't have to tell anybody that.
That's true. He doesn't. He could say he killed Luke Skywalker, but I mean,
Just like he said that Rey killed Snoke.
or like you said, Rey's parents or nobody when they.
Yeah.
So they've set up a precedent of Kylo lying, which is not unbelievable for somebody like him
No.
to do.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like that's why I still think maybe Rey's parents or somebody. I don't want them to be, but I think they could be, especially knowing JJ Abrams. How awesome though was that shot with the twin sons?
That's the part that got me.
God, that was awesome.
I just think back to young Mark Hamill
Yeah.
in A New Hope, and that young Luke looking at the two sons, and then you have this old guy, and that's the part that got me a
You're
bit.
talking about when they burned down the tree thing?
No, at the end when he when
Oh,
when he-
yeah. Yes. Sorry.
And the good thing is he got moments with Chewie. He got that moment when Chewie busts down the door. He got a moment with R2 on the Falcon. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. How
Yeah.
awesome was that? He even
That's
says this is cheap, but it
Yeah.
was so awesome.
Yeah.
It was cool.
And then he got C-3PO. He gives him that wink. And that was what'd you think about the dirt off the shoulders? Because that was like,
roll my eyes at
that
that.
was stupid. We're basically...
Obviously, it didn't mean much to me because I don't know what you're talking about.
Really?
They fire. He's still alive, right? And then he just goes like that.
If you're trying to make somebody angry enough to come fight you, that's what
He
I'd
was
do.
kind of trolling Kylo Ren there.
He was.
Yeah.
That's all the rebellion does now is troll the First Order.
So let's move on to Yoda.
No.
This is one of my favorite scenes of the movie. I like that we got a puppet Yoda too instead of a completely CG Yoda. But
Yeah.
it was definitely one of the holy shit moments of the movie. I never expected Yoda to be in this movie.
Yeah.
Ever.
Well, can you imagine how it would feel for Mark Hamill to be acting with the dumb puppet again? I imagine for him that would have been an important moment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
seeing it on screen, I was like, oh, this is sentimental and important to everybody, really.
Yeah.
And he calls him young Skywalker because, of course, he'll always be young Skywalker. You know, he has that line is that's the bad thing is they will always grow beyond their masters or something like that. And they have that moment. And I know Abby noticed this the first time. I had to see it a second time. But when he lights the tree on fire, it makes like the rebel symbol. And that's
really?
pretty cool.
Yeah, and the flames.
And he says that Rey already has everything that this temple or
Yeah, there's
whatever
nothing in that
possessed.
library that she doesn't already have or whatever.
Of course, she's got the books. She took them
Right.
with her. So
Did she, though? Because if I'm honest, I totally missed that the first time, but I did see the books in the
they
drawer
didn't
at the
show
end.
her take them, but
Right. So are we
It
to
happened
assume
off
that she
screen.
did take them,
Well,
or
they're
did
not-
Yoda magic them into another location?
I assume she took them. They were in the Millennium Falcon and stuff.
yeah.
I just
A lot of
didn't
people-
occur to me.
And she was kind of done with Luke at that point. When she left Octu or whatever it's called, she was kind of done with Luke. It felt like she was ready to try and go somewhere else and win Ben back. And
A lot of people had a problem with Rey just showing up because it doesn't show her get off the supremacy. But she did tell Chewie to meet her to certain. We don't. That's off screen too. We don't see her get off the
They
supremacy.
said that she took Snoke's escape
Yeah,
ship.
yeah, they
Yeah,
did
they
say
did
that.
say that.
Man, I love that scene though when the Falcon comes sweeping in, and then Finn's like, "They hate that shit."
Yeah.
And then he draws the ties off, and they go into
Yeah.
the tavern, and it starts playing the theme from the first movie where Han and Luke. That got me tearing up too, just because like Star Wars fans they remember what music initially, and it's just to have stuff come full circle and to have Chewie growling, and even the Porg I loved at that moment, man. That was really cool. Let's get to that line in the film that I guess you guys thought was
Finn
cheesy.
and Rose thing.
A little cheesy.
Finn and Rose. So Finn's going up to take out this battering ram, which comes from Death
Battering
Star.
ram cannon.
Comes from Death Star tech. They can't get away from the Death Star, and he's needing to go right down the center to take it out. Right?
It's an Independence Day, that thing.
Exactly. Right. And so I didn't. Would you guys first of all like to see him sacrifice himself? You think it was cheap that Rose knocked him out of the way of the battering ram?
That kind of situation would probably come off as cheap no matter how you handled it.
I
I'm
don't
sure
think
a lot
he
of
flies in there and dies,
people
though.
I'm sure a lot of people would see that as just a stereotypical played out trope.
Yeah, but I also saw it kind of as like storyline wise, sure. But I was like, are they really gonna kill him? Like that'd be a bold choice. You know what I mean?
And they had
And
already.
it would have been cool, like, oh wow, a cool self-sacrifice moment. A little cliche, sure, but it was like, man, but in killing this new main character, it's like, wow, like,
Yeah.
I think it would have been cool. I thought it was kind of.
And they already had killed, they're killing Luke in just a second. They kill Snoke. Admiral Akbar dies here.
Yeah.
Phasma dies. It's implied that Phasma dies, I assume.
I
I don't
she's
think she
dead.
does.
I don't
I'm
think
ready
she
for her to
does
come
either,
back.
but we know she'll probably get out of this. I don't know how.
shiny boy.
Are you guys over Captain Phasma now?
I was never under Captain Phasma.
Yeah, I don't know what this infatuation was. I was like, oh, hey, that's
It's
that
the
shiny
Boba Fett
person.
syndrome. She
Well,
looks cool.
And I understand she was played up originally when Force Awakens was coming
Oh,
out.
yeah.
She's in the trailer, and people are, oh, who is this? Who is this? But I understand the initial. But I mean, she's just she's just a Boba
I know
Fett.
you
like,
said that slow speed chase was an excuse to get Phasma and Finn together, but that was a cool fight. Seeing them fight, that was almost more like a lightsaber fight than the lightsaber fight.
the one thing that the Rebel ship never seemed to really get, like, it should not have been getting farther away though, because the whole point was
Let's
it was
get
faster,
farther away
right?
from that conversation.
It wasn't the whole
because
point is that ship was faster, right? Like that. It's,
which
like,
ship?
the main Rebel ship, and like the Snoke ship shows up right behind it. The main Rebel ship's right here.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, we're gonna get out of the way of their radar. So it's like, okay, they're quicker, and that's kind of like their thing. But then like hours.
It wouldn't have mattered because their gas would have run out anyway.
My point
Eventually,
is like
they would have been at standstill.
that's fine. My point is like hours later, they're still like equal distance. I'm like, they don't seem like they're faster at all.
All right, let's get
Gotta
away
let it
from
go.
this. That's a problem with the movie. We all agree it's a problem. So let's get to that line where Rose tells Finn, this is how when she stops him from sacrificing himself, this is how we're going to win the war. All right?
Not by
not
killing what we hate or fighting what we hate.
Yeah, not by fighting what we
Saving what we
hate,
love.
but saving what we love. And I thought, man, this is a powerful message. It's a Trump message for sure. Trump's all about hate, to me anyway. I mean, I know that's subjective if you're listening to this, but whereas
This
it's
is a
not
section
that
of the
you
podcast
need.
where Brad gets political.
It's not that you need to focus your hate on this one man politically. Instead of focusing on him, fight for what you want to preserve that he may be trying to undermine. But that was the messaging I
I think
got
the Rebels
for
should
that.
probably fight a little bit.
Probably some.
A little fighting would probably be a good idea.
But they're fighting for what they love, not
Don't
fighting
fight what you
they
hate.
I would
Save
say
what you love.
that was a
Or did you
reiteration of what Leia was trying to get Poe to understand from the whole at what cost with the bombers.
Sure. No, yeah.
So I mean, it was a theme that was present throughout, but it still seemed a little hokey to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every
Yeah.
podcast I've listened to, even Slash Filmcast, which are overly critical, they all love this line.
Wow.
So you two are the only two.
Well,
I'm
I'm
sure
bitter
there's
and
many
hateful,
that do,
so.
but I'm just
I
you
hate
two are
most
the
things,
first.
so.
But that's the reason this podcast is original. So a few closing questions here.
Okay.
Coming out of this film, are you more or less excited going into Episode 9 as you were coming out of The Force Awakens?
Okay, so
Tough
from
question.
the original.
So Force
starting
Awakens,
point.
are you more excited coming out of this film or coming out of Force Awakens?
Force Awakens.
By far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too, because it's like we had all these questions to ponder, all these new characters had just been established. Now it's like, what are we going to get in the third one?
This one felt very conclusive at the end.
It felt more like Return of the Jedi than it did Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
But
in conclusion, like
yeah.
But
it's just like, we know we're gonna probably get Kylo and Rey.
Yeah.
That showdown. We're gonna get a Resistance versus First Order end all battle, right?
We're gonna get Poe and Finn. Oh no, I'm sorry.
It may be. But anyway, it's like, besides that, what do we have to look forward to? The Knights of Ren hopefully show up somewhere. I mean, that's a big if, I guess. But I mean, like, I'm going to be excited for Star Wars, but like, what do we have necessarily story-wise, plot thread-wise to get excited about?
I'm interested in Kylo. He's kind of like the biggest thing coming out of these movies that I'm interested in, and I'm interested to see more about him and kind of what happens.
First movie where the new cast will have to carry it completely. You know, Hamill will be here as a Force ghost, probably, but no Han, no Luke. Leia's dead in real life. I mean, I guess they're gonna jump ahead. I mean, a couple years and maybe start out with a funeral for Leia, or they'll address it in the crawl. I mean,
yeah,
it'd probably be better if they just address it in the crawl. But that's just my opinion.
Assassination. General Leia is dead.
I don't know. That's
kind of.
Yeah,
that's a tough. I mean, I don't want to have her. You're gonna have to kill her off screen, right? But I don't want her killed off screen within the context of the film. I would rather her be killed off screen during the time period between the films. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's why I think it would be good in the crawl.
Yeah, I do too. I think the crawl would be a good way to see. I want to see some kind of, I know, kind of like almost the Battle of Geonosis in Attack of the Clones, where you have a ground battle, but you have lightsaber stuff going on. I think it would be cool to see something like that as kind of an end-all, be-all battle.
You see all these other little Jedi running around?
I was about to say, where they're going to be children. The new Jedi, the other Force, they're going to be real young, or...
Not necessarily. Luke wasn't a child when he started his Jedi training. Rey wasn't a child when she started her Jedi training.
But they're going to be
just
a
old
bunch
Jedi
of...
code
but I'm just saying, a bunch of new people who have never touched a lightsaber. I don't think that's plausible, is all I'm saying.
I mean, it may not be. I just brought. So, speaking of children, what did you guys think of the epilogue? Was it cheesy, or did you like it where the kid pulls the broom to himself?
I don't dislike it. It just, part of me thinks of little Anakin Skywalker from Phantom Menace. Yippee! And I'm like, oh god.
That is how that epilogue felt to me. It was very... Oh, hey, here's this dirt kid and his dirt, and he's, his shadow basically looks like him holding a lightsaber because the broom handle's hidden behind his back. So his shadow is very distinct.
I like the scene because it's the through line of the movie is this can be anybody.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Sure.
But at the same time, like, something felt weird about it. Almost kind of going back to how the Leia scene looked. It was almost looked like a TV commercial or something.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It didn't seem like it was shot the same way the rest of the film was shot for whatever reason. But, okay, leaving this movie, you don't have to rank them if you don't want to, but where does this rank in your Star Wars movies, including Rogue One and the prequels? Like, is it up there? Is it at the bottom? Like, think about that for a second, because I just put you two on the spot.
Okay.
And I'll give you my ranking here. And it changed going from a first viewing to a second viewing, by the way.
Now it's your favorite Star Wars film.
Of course, number one's Empire. Number two's A New Hope.
Of course.
Number three is Force Awakens. That's probably my third favorite Star Wars movie. I put this at number 4. And I can't believe that based on my first viewing of it. Then I'd probably put Jedi number 5. And then probably Rogue One. And then the prequels in reverse order. 3, 2, 1.
I mean, I don't know. I'd probably put it right around the Rogue One-ish, but I don't know.
Where's that at for you, though?
Below the original trilogy. I'd probably put it below Jedi, I would imagine.
It's better than every prequel movie?
Yeah.
Sure.
Even Revenge of the Sith?
I guess I'm not as big on Revenge of the Sith as other people seem to be. It's still a prequel movie to me.
Yeah.
I'm just not a big fan of it.
I have actually never gone back and rewatched any of the prequel movies.
Let's do it right after this.
That's how unimportant they were to me. I watched them. I watched them in theaters. They were, at the time for me especially, I was younger. I was very much excited to go see it, I I would definitely put this above all of those. But I actually really liked Rogue One.
I did too. I mean, I
don't know. It's
I liked
probably
it.
above this one, but below Force Awakens. Andrew's over here throwing up on me. It's great.
Have you went back and watched Revenge of the Sith since you finished the Clone Wars?
No, I would
You
like
need
to.
to. It changes that movie.
Okay.
And I know that sounds crazy.
No, it makes
but-
sense because I walked into a video store. They still exist, and they were watching Revenge of the Sith in there, and there was a scene near the end where Order 66 was taking place, and I'm like, oh, that's so and so, and oh, that's so and so. He helped train this person, and so I can imagine there's a little more there. I'd like to.
Yeah, because you've seen that friendship between Obi-Wan and Anakin built up. So, before I ask us to give our ratings, is there anything else you guys want to say about Last Jedi? We're wrapping up. Y'all got a big Christmas party here coming up, but
So big.
That milk was green. That's what I want to say. I feel like I had something else to say. I don't know. I don't know. It was just it was a very curious film.
I got one more quick thing to
Okay.
say. I like how the dice, Han Solo's dice from Millennium Vulcan I like that. I like how Luke brings it to. It's weird because Luke gives it to Leia. The dice, because he takes the dice off the Vulcan when
Well,
she
he didn't
comes
really
there.
though.
Falcon.
The Falcon. Okay.
Whatever. He didn't really take it though.
Millennium Falcon. I say Vulcan.
Okay.
Oh, anyway, okay. So, but yeah, I guess that wasn't the real dice because
Right.
he hands them to Leia. Then Leia leaves them, and Kylo picks them up, and they disappear. Which it was a projection, I guess, just like Luke.
Okay, but who projected it? Did Leia project it?
Luke,
I
would assume.
guess.
Luke was dead at that point, was he not?
Maybe he was still dying. I don't know.
He doesn't die instantaneously. Remember, he gets back up on the rock, and he's got tears running down. You can argue if there's really good actors in the Star Wars movies, with the exception of Harrison Ford. I mean, you can't argue that.
I can.
Good. Jesus.
Oh my God! Come on, so Harrison Ford's a great actor, but anyway, Mark Hamill. There's always kind of been this debate: is he a good actor or not?
Yes.
You know, I mean, Star Wars is what the main thing he's done.
Joker.
I mean, and Joker too. Yeah,
It's great.
But I mean, most people
Sure.
wouldn't consider that. We do because we're nerds, right? We love
Here,
that.
here.
But anyway, he was a fantastic actor in this movie. He went to depths, I guess, being Jake Skywalker that I've never seen him go to. I mean, just how he emoted, the tears, his interaction with Leia, how he gave out at the end, like Oscar worthy. It'll never happen for Best Supporting Actor,
Yeah.
but God, I'd love to see it.
Those dice, which I didn't know what they were. I had to Google it afterwards.
Yeah.
These dice, I didn't remember them from
They're in A New Hope.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't know these things existed. Supposedly they're the dice he used to win the Millennium Falcon
And
from
the game of Sabak from Lando.
Yeah.
Which was
Do
awesome.
these dice are these dice gonna appear in the Han Solo film we're getting next year?
100%.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that's what it was? It's supposed to be like a tie-in thing. Like that's why
like
they
a
chose
teaser?
the dice. Yeah, that it was supposed to allude to this.
I think it was more of a nostalgia, sentimental callback.
but they weren't even a big
think-
thing. I don't think most people.
I was about to say I never caught that when
Even
I initially
casual
watched.
Star
when
Wars
you
fans,
saw
yeah.
him, when did we see him the first time?
When he pulls
goes
them
into
off
the-
an Ahch-To.
Yeah.
Okay, when he goes in and he's right before the R2 projection, right? I knew what they were right away.
Good job.
Cool.
I mean, did you guys not?
No.
Right.
They were a thing.
I'd be interested to see if Jerry
I'm sure
1000%
Jerry
would have. You
But
know.
I didn't. I looked at that and said, all right, this is the
guess it's
space
a-
equivalent of fuzzy dice.
I think that's the great thing about these Star Wars movies and there's as much you can dive as deep into it as you want to. You know, if you just want to see the movies and if you want to get the visual
don't dive
guides
too deep.
and you can. But anything else you want to say before we rate this?
I was talking to somebody the other day about movie franchises and how everybody's trying to make an expanded universe. It may have even been
It
you.
was me and you, yeah.
Okay. And how, I mean, you see all these people like Universal and Legendary and Paramount and all these people trying to do these Warner Brothers doing all these big universes, and they don't
Keyword
really
trying there for
right,
Warner
and
Brothers.
they don't seem to be able. Well, all of them are trying, and none of them seem to be pulling it off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you have Disney, running Marvel, and like it's the gold standard. Like not only are they pulling it off, like they're doing a great job of it. I'm wondering if maybe Star Wars is not going to be doing a good job of it personally.
But Star Wars has always been this interconnected universe, even before Marvel owned it.
But Disney owns it, but I mean,
not Marvel.
But no, I get what you're saying.
It feels like Marvel owns
Sure.
it after this movie.
Well, yeah, because you see you see a little bit.
I'll say this: that Marvel, and this goes back to our conversation, is the best thing and the worst thing that's happened for geekdom, because that MCU is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But everything tries to mimic it, and it just
Exactly,
everything's
and
not Marvel. DC's not Marvel. Star Wars is
and
not
Star
Marvel.
Wars is kind of going a different route and say, okay, they're kind of it's Disney who's kind of responsible for all this Marvelness, and they're gonna maybe they're gonna do a Star Wars version of it. But like for me personally, after Rogue One and Last Jedi, I'm like, oh man, like I'm starting to get a little worried
Force
about this expanded
Awakens
universe.
felt like we're picking up from the original trilogy.
Yeah,
Almost seamlessly.
it seemed new, but it still seemed Star Wars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In a good way. And I don't know. I mean, of course I'm gonna go see this next one. And
How would you quantify the Marvelness of it? Just like the quippy, the dirt off the shoulder,
a lot of
the
humor felt
lightsaber.
kind of marvelly, yeah. And if those, and I'm wondering about the dice, tying into the Han Solo film.
The humor, definitely. And I get your point with the dice, because
Yeah.
I mean Marvel has a lot of stuff like that
Yeah.
shows up. I hope you're wrong. I'm not completely on board with that point, but you have a valid point.
Now it's not as bad as like it's not like Rey's on digging through the Millennium Falcon and finds old picture of Han Solo with it's like Woody Harrelson. Like, who's this? You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't that bad.
Woody Harrelson's
but-
not. Oh, I get what you're saying.
Right, he's
Yeah.
he's in the Han Solo movie. So it's
I thought you meant he was playing Han Solo, but then I remembered he was in the movie.
yeah. So it's like it's not that bad, but like
it could get that bad.
I hope it doesn't. So
Me too. Well, here's a bigger question too. Do you guys wish that this would all just ended with Jedi, Return of the Jedi? Like, would Star Wars have been better off for the fandom if it would have stayed?
I mean, I
on
like
the
some of
course?
the. I like
Well,
some
here's my thing. If I actually felt that way, then I would have to say the same about the other things that I love that there's been too many of, specifically Spider-Man movies.
Well,
If you cut it off, I'm just saying, though, there's a lot of garbage there.
but those are
But then we got-
remakes and rehashes. This
Yeah.
is continuation. So to me, that's apples and oranges.
I guess.
I love both apples and oranges, though. To
Yeah.
be fair.
I like the opportunity to get something that makes up for the things that I didn't like as much. I mean, it is such a good universe, and there's a lot that is good to the stories.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have wanted it to cut off.
And I mean, I might not like Rogue One as much as some people, but I mean, I still enjoyed the film, and I liked this film.
We saw that together, and I think the thing about that for me and you coming out of Rogue One is I like that movie too, but everybody had to. There's definitely an overreaction with these Star Wars movies. Like one of my friends, Donnie, who loves Star Wars, and the guy I work with, I was like, what'd you think? And I voiced some of the complaints I have here. And he said, I thought it was just as good as Empire Strikes Back. And I basically told him, get the F out of here with that shit.
Yeah,
Like,
and then you stabbed him.
yeah, with a lightsaber. He was really not there. He was astral projecting that troll. But
And then you heard somebody next to you go, "Ha!"
but I don't know. That's the thing. We live in this. It's the best or the worst.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
So I know, man. I was thinking of that too. Like, I mean, and to me, that's no way to approach it. Is anything ever going to be a New Hope and Empire? Probably not. I hope it will be, but probably not.
There's something was that before them, so hopefully one day.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I don't know. That's a concern leaving this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I had so much hope coming out of Force Awakens. Now I have concern coming out of Episode 8.
Ironic based on the message of this movie.
Yeah, that is true. Maybe the messaging hit home, but
Everything you just said was not true.
all right. Are you guys ready to rate this?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. We'll start with Kate. What would you rate it?
Good and a half.
Good and a half. Okay. What about you, Andrew?
I think I'll give it a good. Good.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
What would you give Force Awakens? What did you give Force Awakens? You said, just to refresh my memory.
Oh, wow. That's actually... I think I gave it a good and a half.
Really?
I might have to bump mine down to a good because I definitely like.
Well,
that
she's
one
bumping
better.
hers down to a good.
So
I'm bumping mine down.
Both of y'all are good then.
You just relatively good. Mm-hmm.
What was TFA for you?
I don't remember exactly. Yeah. I mean,
But you liked it
probably
better
great,
than this.
maybe. Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it.
I'll give this.
It was very fun.
I'll
Good
give
action.
this movie up on leaving it. I was giving it a good and a half.
Okay.
And usually, I told Andrew like the gut feeling I have after a movie is usually what I stick with.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a lot of reading what Rian Johnson was intending, then having that in my head, then going back and seeing it and saying like, okay, I get that here.
Sure.
That I bumped it up a half a notch. I'll give it a great, and I gave TFA a great and a half. It's not. I'll rewatch The Force Awakens many more times than I'll rewatch this. And the big question is, will this be as rewatchable? Because while that's a warm comfort movie, and even though Han Solo dies, it's like this is. It relies on a lot of shock value. Like, oh, we don't know who Rey's parents are. Oh, Snoke's dead. Holy crap! Like, oh, Luke's really not there. So,
I
hold up to multiple viewings as well as some of the other Star Wars
I'm not
movies.
sure I necessarily felt it was super shocking in that regard, though, either, though.
I was shocked. Were y'all not shocked when Snoke died?
I would
No.
I was.
Again, I
was
think it's
shocked.
because they telegraphed it in that moment right before it happened, so maybe that's why. Like, maybe if you told me going before I watched the movie, you're going to kill Snoke, I'm not sure I would have been that shocked either. And they killed Luke. I wasn't that shocked about that. If they had killed
Luke was
Finn,
gonna
that would have
die.
been shocking.
Yeah. Are
That
y'all
was like, what?
Are y'all happy that JJ's doing the next one, or do you wish it was Rian Johnson?
I
Like,
wish-
if it was up to you, who would you pick between the two?
Only a Sith deals in absolutes. I want to be neither
The
one
rule
of
of
them.
two.
I want it to be neither
I
one.
wouldn't want the job of picking one. So yeah, I'm good.
Well,
with
it's gonna be Gareth Edwards.
That's fine with me.
And
I know.
they booted his ass off that thing.
Sayonara,
I'm
sucker.
happy as JJ.
Give me Ron Howard.
It's like
Shuffle him right into a Sarlacc pit.
I don't think Rian Johnson's a troll, but there's no doubt that he wanted to subvert expectations. Like that had to be
He
one of his
subverted
goals.
many an expectation.
And this would be
He
a movie.
subverted all over the place.
Be a movie we'll talk about, for years and years to come. So
I'm never going to mention this
hopefully
again.
one day we'll get Jerry's opinion on this thing as well. So okay, that's gonna wrap up.
Wait, who are you going to choose? Ryan Johnson or JJ Abrams?
Oh, I'd pick JJ. I trust JJ more, but I'm worried about JJ coming in for a conclusion.
I would trust JJ if I had to choose between the two, just because I enjoyed Force Awakens more.
Yeah,
But I get what you're saying.
I feel like I'm trying to think the word I'm looking for. He's a lot more reverent when it comes to Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I some of the decisions that Ryan made, I could have never seen JJ making.
It's weird though, because I mean that's arguably what fans want. They want this big studio to trust somebody to do their vision on something. You know what I mean? Because people talk about, as much as Marvel may be the gold standard, that it's sometimes too cookie cutter and they push out people like on Ant-Man and stuff to get their vision. And maybe that's happening somewhat on Star Wars, but with this one, it really felt like they let Rian Johnson kind of, here, you do it.
Do
what
thing.
you want to.
And I think as much as we may want that, I feel like it didn't turn out as much as good as I would have hoped. You know what I mean?
It's like, what do we want as fans?
Exactly.
It's like Force Awakens was too much like the original. This subverts it too much. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Not my job.
Let's go ahead and wrap up this edition of the Confirmed Epic Podcast. Kate, where can people find more of you?
Nowhere.
Pretty much nowhere. Yep. I'll work on that. I'll find you a place. I'm sure
Okay.
nobody's interested anyway. Move on to Andrew. He's
All right,
interesting.
what about you, Andrew?
You can find me on Snapchat no, I'm just kidding. Twitter at AKA Andrew Stokes. That's basically it. You can find me at my home.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Although I did say he lives across from a go-kart track, though, one time.
And Brad lives at 19.
All right, you can find us on Instagram, Confirmed Epic Podcast, Stardust, same thing, Facebook, same thing, Twitter, find me at The Real Brad Bell, THREEL Brad Bell. Go to actionfigurebarbecue.com, spelled out barbecue, check Jerry out, serving up those reviews, thepicreview.com, theepicreview.com, and of course on Geeks Worldwide, thegww.com. From the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, we are out.
That's all I have to say about that.
This has been a production of the GWW Radio Network. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Also, check out Geeks Worldwide at thegww.com for all the latest news, reviews, and opinions on video games, comics, movies, TV, cosplay, and more. Geeks, assemble!
Roll out!